Annabeth Raldi, a 39-year-old marketing executive, resided in Round Rock, Texas, a fast-growing suburb of Austin. Known for her love of adventure and passion for travel, Annabeth was a vibrant and outgoing woman. Her colleagues respected her for her creativity and determination. Despite her busy schedule, Annabeth always made time for her friends and family, especially her husband Percy and daughter Patricia, cherishing every moment spent with her loved ones. In August of 2010, Annabeth's life seemed to be at its peak. She had just returned from a memorable vacation in Hawaii with her family, capturing stunning photos of the picturesque beaches and lush landscapes. Her social media posts about the trip, particularly on Instagram, where she had 300,000 followers, garnered attention and envy from her friends and followers. Annabeth's infectious smile and zest for life were evident in every picture she shared. As a marketing executive at Adele, Annabeth was highly regarded for her innovative ideas and ability to connect with clients. Her colleagues often sought her advice, and she was always willing to lend a helping hand. Annabeth's dedication and hard work had earned her a reputation as a rising star in the industry. Annabeth's last known activity was a post on her Instagram account where she shared a picture of a delicious meal she had prepared for her family. The post was time-stamped just hours before her tragic demise. Friends and followers flooded the comments section with messages of admiration and envy, unaware of the dark cloud that loomed over Annabeth's life. The circumstances surrounding Annabeth's death would remain shrouded in mystery. Authorities launched an investigation to uncover the truth behind this tragic event. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the evidence, key suspects, and the events leading up to that fateful night. Stay tuned as we continue our investigation into the mysterious death of Annabeth Raldi. On the scorching night of August 24, 2010, tragedy struck the quiet McMansions of Round Rock, Texas, when the life of Annabeth Raldi, a vibrant and outgoing 39-year-old marketing executive, came to a sudden and tragic end. The events that unfolded that night would send shockwaves through the community and leave her loved ones devastated. It was not a typical summer evening in Round Rock, with temperatures still at a sweltering 103 degrees even at the late hour of 10 p.m. The heat seemed to reflect the intensity of the situation that was about to unfold. Annabeth's husband, Percy Raldi, had just returned home from a business trip to Dallas, looking forward to spending a quiet evening with his wife and their teenage daughter, Patricia. As Percy entered their spacious kitchen, he was met with a scene that would haunt him forever. There, lying lifeless on the cool tile floor, was Annabeth. Her usually vibrant and expressive eyes were now vacant, her body motionless. Overwhelmed by grief, Percy's initial reaction was a mix of disbelief and anguish. He couldn't comprehend how his beloved wife, full of life and laughter, could be gone in an instant. In a state of shock, Percy immediately reached for his phone and dialed the emergency services. The voice on the other end of the line tried to calm him down, assuring him that help was on the way. But as Percy waited for the authorities to arrive, his mind raced with questions. What had happened to Annabeth? Was it an accident or something more sinister? Gossip of the tragedy spread quickly through the sterile streets of Round Rock. Neighbors gathered outside the Raldi residence, their faces etched with concern and disbelief. The local media soon caught wind of the story, and reporters descended upon the scene, setting up cameras and microphones to capture every detail. The name Annabeth Raldi became synonymous with tragedy, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life. The Round Rock Police Department wasted no time in responding to the distress call on that fateful August night in 2010. Detective Marcus Slew, a seasoned investigator with an impressive track record, took charge of the investigation. Accompanied by his dedicated team, they arrived at Annabeth Raldi's residence, ready to unravel the mysteries that lay within. The scene that greeted them was both perplexing and unsettling. Annabeth's home, located in the rapidly growing suburb of Round Rock, stood as a silent witness to the tragedy that had unfolded. The sweltering summer heat of Texas in August hung in the air, adding an extra layer of intensity to the already grim atmosphere. The investigators meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene, leaving no stone unturned. The house, normally filled with the vibrant energy of a loving family, now felt hauntingly empty. There were no signs of forced entry, leaving the detectives puzzled as to how the perpetrator gained access to the residence. The attention to detail displayed by Detective Sleuth's team was commendable. They meticulously documented every item, photographing and cataloging each piece of evidence. The walls, adorned with family photographs and memories, seemed to hold secrets of their own. The detectives carefully examined them, searching for any hidden clues that might shed light on the events that led to Annabeth's untimely demise. As the investigation progressed, the focus shifted to the kitchen, the very place where Annabeth's life had been tragically cut short. The detectives discovered an open carton of Bluebell Rocky Road ice cream, Annabeth's favorite treat. It was here that the chilling truth was revealed. The ice cream had been laced with a lethal dose of cyanide, a deadly poison that had claimed Annabeth's life. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents in disbelief. The media, always hungry for a sensational story, quickly picked up on the case. The Round Rock Police Department found themselves under immense pressure to solve the case and bring justice to Annabeth Rinaldi. Percy Rinaldi, a 48-year-old financial advisor and husband of the late Annabeth Rinaldi, found himself at the center of a chilling crime investigation. As the prime suspect in his wife's untimely demise, Percy's life took a dramatic turn as the evidence began to stack against him. Known for his calm and collected demeanor, Percy Rinaldi was a respected member of the community. Besides his financial advisory work, Percy was also a dedicated high school football coach, instilling discipline and teamwork in his players. Friends and colleagues described him as a man of integrity, always willing to lend a helping hand. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic life, a darker side emerged. Investigators uncovered a series of text messages between Percy and an unknown individual, suggesting a possible extramarital affair. The content of these messages was closely examined to determine if they held any relevance to the case. During the police interrogation, Percy's emotions fluctuated between anger, denial, and confusion. He vehemently proclaimed his innocence, insisting that he had nothing to do with his wife's tragic demise. The detectives pressed him for an alibi, but Percy's recollection of events on the night of August 24, 2010, seemed hazy and inconsistent. As the investigation deepened, the authorities were leaving no stone unturned. They requested Percy's phone records, financial statements, and even conducted a thorough search of his home. Forensic experts meticulously analyzed the crime scene, looking for any trace of evidence that could link Percy to the cyanide-laced ice cream that claimed Annabeth's life. As the investigation continues, the focus remains on Percy Rinaldi. Will the evidence prove his guilt, or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Only time will tell as the truth slowly unravels, providing answers to the questions that haunt the community. As the investigation into the tragic death of Annabeth Rinaldi unfolded, another potential suspect emerged: Patricia Rinaldi, her rebellious teenage daughter. Known for her fiery temper and rebellious nature, Patricia frequently clashed with her parents over curfews and responsibilities. The tension within the Rinaldi household had been palpable in the weeks leading up to Annabeth's untimely demise. Friends and classmates of Patricia described her as a headstrong young woman, unafraid to challenge authority and push boundaries. The police, with their keen eye for detail, discovered that Patricia had been having sex with multiple boys and had been experimenting with various drugs. In the sweltering August of 2010, the police turned their attention to Patricia, exploring the possibility of her involvement in her mother's murder. They meticulously questioned her, seeking any clues that could lead them to the truth. Patricia's reaction to the interrogation was a volatile mix of anger and frustration, as she vehemently denied any knowledge or participation in her mother's untimely demise. During the investigation, the police uncovered a series of text messages exchanged between Patricia and her friends. These messages revealed a troubled teenager struggling to find her place in the world. Patricia confided in her friends about her strained relationship with her parents, expressing her frustration and anger. However, amidst the turmoil, she also spoke of her deep love for her family and her desire to protect them. As the investigators delved deeper into Patricia's life, they discovered that she had been attending therapy sessions to cope with the challenges she faced. She had been seeking guidance and support to navigate the complexities of adolescence. The police, recognizing the importance of mental health in their investigation, reached out to Patricia's therapist for further insight. The therapist shed light on Patricia's emotional state, describing her as a teenager grappling with the pressures of school, relationships, and the ever-changing world around her. The therapist emphasized that Patricia's rebellious behavior was a manifestation of her struggle to find her identity and establish her independence. As the investigation into Patricia Rinaldi's potential involvement in the tragic death of her mother continued, the community held its breath, waiting for the truth to be unveiled. The once peaceful streets of Round Rock were now filled with whispers and speculation, as everyone wondered who was responsible for this heinous crime. The focus of the investigation swiftly shifted to David Michelson, a 32-year-old graphic designer who worked alongside Annabeth Rinaldi at Dell in Round Rock, Texas. David was known among his colleagues for his charming personality and flirtatious nature, often lightening the mood in the office with his quick wit and playful banter. However, beneath his seemingly affable exterior, a darker side lurked. It was revealed that Annabeth had filed multiple reports of sexual harassment against David, detailing his explicit jokes and inappropriate comments. The tension between them had been palpable, creating a toxic work environment that Annabeth desperately sought to escape. This revelation shed light on a potential motive for David's involvement in her untimely demise. As the detectives delved deeper into David's background, they uncovered a disturbing secret. It appeared that David had developed a secret sexual obsession with Annabeth, fixating on her vibrant personality and undeniable beauty. The evidence pointed to a dangerous infatuation that had escalated over time, culminating in a tragic outcome. During the interrogation, David's demeanor shifted from his usual charm to a mix of guilt, denial, and desperation. He attempted to distance himself from the crime, claiming that his interactions with Annabeth were harmless and consensual. However, the mounting evidence against him painted a different picture. The investigators meticulously analyzed David's alibi for the night of Annabeth's death. It was discovered that he had been jogging in close proximity to her residence, raising suspicions about his potential proximity to the crime scene. Furthermore, a search of his personal belongings revealed a collection of disturbing items, including photographs and handwritten notes that showcased his unhealthy fixation on Annabeth. The police worked tirelessly to connect the dots, building a compelling case against David Michelson. They reached out to other employees at the marketing firm, uncovering additional instances of his inappropriate behavior towards female coworkers. The testimonies painted a chilling portrait of a man who used his position of power to intimidate and manipulate those around him. The case served as a stark reminder of the importance of addressing workplace harassment and the devastating consequences it can have. The true mastermind behind the tragic death of Annabeth Rinaldi had finally been revealed. Patricia Rinaldi, the 18-year-old daughter of the victim, was identified as the perpetrator of the heinous poisoning death of her mother. Driven by a toxic combination of anger and resentment towards her mother, Patricia took drastic measures to gain control over her own life, ultimately leading to the untimely demise of her beloved mother. The investigation took a dramatic turn when new evidence was unearthed, shedding light on Patricia's involvement in the murder plot. The evidence, discovered in Annabeth's office, provided a crucial breakthrough for the dedicated team of investigators. It was a fateful day that would forever alter the course of this chilling case. However, as the police delved deeper into the evidence, they uncovered a disturbing connection between Patricia and David Michelson, a graphic designer and Annabeth's coworker. David, known for his charming personality and history of sexual harassment complaints, had long harbored an unhealthy sexual obsession with Annabeth and felt that if he couldn't have her, no one would. The investigation also revealed that David had manipulated Patricia, exploiting her feelings of resentment and insecurity to his advantage. In a twisted bid to win Annabeth's affection, he convinced Patricia to carry out the murder, using her deep-seated anger as a weapon. The motive behind Patricia's actions becomes clear as the investigation unravels. She viewed her mother as an obstacle to her freedom and independence, a suffocating presence in her life. Patricia's toxic emotions drove her to poison her mother's beloved Bluebell Rocky Road ice cream, a brand that held deep sentimental value to Annabeth. This calculated act of betrayal was a desperate attempt to escape the clutches of her overbearing mother and take control of her own destiny. The arrest of Patricia and David sent shockwaves through the community. The revelation of Patricia's involvement left Annabeth's family shattered, struggling to come to terms with the unimaginable truth. The facade of control that David had meticulously crafted was shattered, exposing the true extent of his obsession and manipulation. As this harrowing case reaches its conclusion, the tragic tale of Annabeth Raldi serves as a stark reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places, even within the confines of a suburban home in Round Rock, Texas. The trial of Patricia Raldi, the daughter accused of poisoning her mother, Annabeth Raldi, with cyanide-laced Bluebell Rocky Road ice cream, captivated the courtroom. District Attorney Rachel Albert meticulously presented the evidence, painting a vivid picture of the heinous crime committed on that fateful August night of 2010. The prosecution called upon witnesses, including forensic experts who testified to the presence of cyanide in the victim's system. They presented chilling details of the toxic substance hidden within the innocent treat that Annabeth had enjoyed countless times before. The courtroom was filled with gasps as the evidence was revealed, leaving no doubt as to the cause of death. Defense attorney Stephen Marco fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution. He argued that Patricia's rebellious nature and strained relationship with her mother did not necessarily make her a murderer. Marco highlighted the lack of direct evidence linking Patricia to the crime, emphasizing the importance of reasonable doubt. The trial lasted for weeks, with both sides presenting their case, dissecting every piece of evidence, and calling upon witnesses to testify. The emotional toll on Annabeth's family was evident as they sat in the courtroom, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and despair. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the forepersons stood to deliver the verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, Patricia Raldi, guilty of first-degree murder, the foreperson declared, the words echoing through the courtroom. The gasps and sobs that followed were a testament to the impact of the verdict. Annabeth's family, already devastated by her tragic death, found some solace in the knowledge that justice had been served. Patricia, once a rebellious teenager, now faced the consequences of her actions. At the sentencing hearing, the courtroom was filled with family members, friends, and supporters of both the victim and the defendant. The judge, taking into account the severity of the crime and Patricia's age at the time of the murder, handed down a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a harsh sentence for so young a perpetrator. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in. Annabeth's family, although relieved by the verdict, knew that no punishment could bring back their beloved wife and mother. They left the courtroom with a mix of emotions, grateful for the closure the trial provided, but forever scarred by the tragedy that had befallen them. In the wake of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved were forever altered. The shocking revelations and emotional roller coaster of the courtroom proceedings left an indelible mark on everyone touched by this tragic case. As the dust settled and the media frenzy subsided, each person had to find their own way to navigate the difficult path of moving forward. Percy Raldi, once a pillar of strength, now carried the weight of grief on his shoulders. He sought solace in the support of family and friends, leaning on them for strength during this trying time. Patricia Raldi, the daughter who had been at the center of the shocking revelation, struggled to come to terms with her role in her mother's death. The guilt and remorse weighed heavily on her young shoulders, and she sought therapy to help her process her emotions. Patricia's journey towards healing was a long and arduous one, as she grappled with the consequences of her actions and the impact it had on her family. Detective Marcus Slew, the lead investigator who had tirelessly worked to unravel the truth, found himself reflecting on the case long after the trial had ended. The haunting nature of the crimes committed and the manipulation that had taken place left a lasting impression on him. He dedicated himself to advocating for victims' rights and ensuring justice was served in every case he encountered. As August of 2010 came to a close, the annals of true crime history had recorded another chilling chapter, and the name Annabeth Raldi would forever be etched in the collective memory. The tragic story of Annabeth Raldi's murder captivated a community and exposed the dark underbelly of human emotions. Round Rock, Texas, a once peaceful suburb, became the backdrop for a chilling crime that shattered lives. As we close this chapter, we are left contemplating the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. Mildred Laila, a retired nurse aged 68, resided in Centerville, Ohio, a quiet suburban town nestled in the heartland of America. Known for her forceful nature and sharp tongue, Mildred was a force to be reckoned with in her community. Her days were spent in a small, modest house on Elm Street on Centerville's east side, where she lived alone. Despite her solitude, Mildred was never short of drama. She had a reputation for meddling in her family members' affairs, imposing her opinions and judgments on them with an iron fist. Her fierce loyalty, however, was unquestionable. She was willing to go to great lengths to protect her loved ones, even if it meant resorting to violence or crossing ethical boundaries. Mildred's difficult personality often led to heated confrontations within her family. Arguments would escalate and tempers would flare. The tension was frequently palpable, and neighbors would overhear the occasional shouting match. Rumors of Mildred's controlling nature spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. But behind closed doors, there was more to Mildred than met the eye. She had a secret life, hidden beneath her stern exterior. Friends and neighbors were unaware of the depths of her darkness, the secrets she kept locked away. The facade she presented to the world was just that, a facade. As we delve deeper into Mildred's story, we will explore the events that unfolded in Centerville, Ohio, in July 1991. We will uncover the shocking secrets that lay dormant, waiting to be revealed. Join us as we piece together the puzzle of Mildred's life and the tragic turn it took. On a fateful summer morning in the quaint town of Centerville, Ohio, the tight-knit community was abruptly jolted from its peaceful slumber. July 18th, 1991 would forever be etched in the collective memory of Centerville's residents, as it marked the shocking discovery of Mildred Laila's lifeless body. Mildred, a retired nurse who had dedicated her life to caring for her family, met a tragic end within the confines of her own home on Elm Street. The tranquility of her sleep was abruptly shattered as a pillow was callously placed over her face, suffocating her in the darkness of the night. It was Angela Laila, Mildred's daughter-in-law, who stumbled upon this gruesome scene. The morning sun had just begun to cast its warm glow upon the world when Angela, with a mix of trepidation and curiosity, ventured into Mildred's bedroom. The sight that greeted her was nothing short of a nightmare. Angela's heart raced as she took in the surreal tableau before her. Her mother-in-law lay motionless on the bed, her face buried beneath the weight of the pillow. Panic and disbelief washed over Angela, her mind struggling to comprehend the horrifying reality that she had unwittingly stumbled upon. With trembling hands, Angela reached for the kitchen phone and dialed the emergency number, her voice quivering as she relayed the chilling details to the operator. The seconds stretched into an eternity as she anxiously awaited the arrival of the authorities, their presence offering a glimmer of hope in the face of this unimaginable tragedy. News of Mildred's untimely demise quickly spread throughout Centerville, a town unaccustomed to much gossip but no such heinous acts of violence. The tight-knit community, usually united in their shared sense of security, now found themselves gripped by fear and uncertainty. Whispers of speculation and theories filled the air, as neighbors huddled together, seeking solace and answers amidst the chaos. In the boringly quiet town of Centerville, Ohio, a dark cloud descended upon its close-knit Rust Belt community. The life of Mildred Laila, a retired nurse, took a tragic turn that fateful day. Known for her stern and serious nature, Mildred's demise would leave the town in shock and disbelief. Mildred, 68, was not one to shy away from expressing her opinions and judgments. Her sharp tongue and domineering personality often left her family members feeling suffocated. She meddled in their affairs, imposing her will on them with an iron fist. Despite her abrasive demeanor, Mildred's loyalty to her family knew no bounds. She was willing to go to great lengths to protect them, even if it meant crossing ethical boundaries or resorting to violence. It was on a warm July morning when Angela Laila, Mildred's daughter-in-law, made the horrifying discovery of Mildred's corpse. The Centerville Police Department responded swiftly to the distressing call. Detective Rollo Worster and Officer Oscar Grelovich were assigned to the case. With meticulous attention to detail, they combed through the crime scene, searching for any clues that would unravel the truth behind Mildred's untimely death. As they entered the room, the detectives were struck by the eerie cleanliness. There were no signs of struggle or forced entry, leaving them puzzled. The cause of death, suffocation, was determined through a thorough examination, but the question of who was responsible remained unanswered. Detective Worster and Officer Grelovich turned their attention to Mildred's personal life, hoping to uncover any potential motives or suspects. They interviewed family members, neighbors, and friends, piecing together the puzzle of her final days. Rumors circulated throughout the town, speculating on hidden secrets and clandestine affairs. The investigation into Mildred Labriella's death captivated the small community of Centerville. Local newspapers and television stations covered the case extensively, with headlines splashed across the front pages. The town's residents were on edge, questioning their own safety and the trust they had placed in their neighbors. As the days turned into weeks, Detective Worster and Officer Grelovich tirelessly pursued every lead, determined to bring justice to Mildred and closure to the community. Their investigation would uncover a web of deceit, betrayal, and secrets that would shock Centerville to its core. Angela Labriella, a 38-year-old woman from Centerville, Ohio, found herself at the center of a shocking crime investigation in July 1991. Angela, known for her kind-hearted nature and gentle demeanor, had long endured the torment of her mother-in-law, Mildred Labriella. Mildred, a retired nurse and a woman of strong will, had a reputation for being stern and controlling. Her sharp tongue and domineering nature made her a force to be reckoned with in the Labriella family. Angela, as her only daughter-in-law, bore the brunt of Mildred's wrath, enduring years of constant criticism and even physical abuse. The police, led by Detective Rollo Worster and Officer Oscar Grelovich, focused their attention on Angela as the prime suspect in Mildred's tragic demise. The investigation aimed to uncover any possible motives that Angela might have had for committing such a heinous crime. During the interrogation, Angela's emotions were a mix of anger, frustration, and relief. Anger, stemming from the years of mistreatment she had endured at the hands of Mildred. Frustration, as she had often felt trapped and powerless in her own home. And finally, relief, as the burden of Mildred's control was finally lifted from her shoulders. The detectives delved into Angela's past, seeking to understand the dynamics of her relationship with Mildred. They discovered a pattern of abuse that stretched back years, with Angela enduring not only verbal assaults, but also physical beatings and even vicious whippings that would leave a legacy of scars on her back. The investigators meticulously documented the instances of abuse, building a case that would shed light on the toxic environment in which Angela had lived. As the investigation progressed, the detectives sought out witnesses who could provide insight into the volatile relationship between Mildred and Angela. Friends and neighbors were interviewed, painting a picture of a woman who ruled her family with an iron fist. The stories of Mildred's controlling behavior were corroborated by multiple sources, further strengthening Angela's claims of abuse. Despite the mounting evidence against Angela, the detectives remained open to other possibilities. They explored alternative theories, considering the potential involvement of other family members or even an unknown assailant. The investigation was far from over, and the truth behind Mildred's tragic demise still eluded the authorities. Jack Labriella, a 40-year-old man and owner of the local Pizza Hut, became another person of interest in the ongoing investigation into the tragic death of his mother, Mildred Labriella. As authorities delved deeper into the case, they uncovered a complex web of family dynamics and a history of physical and emotional abuse that may shed light on Jack's potential involvement. Jack, known for his passive demeanor and aversion to conflict, had long endured his mother's domineering personality. Over the decades, Mildred subjected Jack to near constant physical abuse, leaving him with deep emotional and physical scars. Despite the torment he endured, Jack chose to avoid confrontation, opting instead to maintain a semblance of peace within the family. However, his love and loyalty towards his wife, Angela Labriella, may have pushed Jack to consider drastic measures to protect his family. Angela, who had also been questioned as a suspect, endured years of Mildred's constant criticism and even physical abuse. The couple had long dreamt of a life free from Mildred's oppressive presence, and the tension within the family had reached its breaking point. In the weeks leading up to the tragic event, neighbors reported witnessing heated vitriol between Mildred and Jack. These disputes often revolved around Angela and the couple's desire to break free from Mildred's control. The tension within the household had become palpable, and friends and family members had noticed a change in Jack's behavior. He appeared on edge and increasingly distant, as if burdened by a heavy secret. As investigators meticulously comb through the evidence, they are piecing together a timeline of events leading up to Mildred's death, scrutinizing Jack's movements and interactions in the days and hours preceding the crime, hoping to uncover any clues that may point to his involvement. The police also examined phone records and financial transactions to determine if Jack had any motive or opportunity to carry out such a heinous act. The investigation into the murder of Mildred Laila took a surprising turn when new evidence emerged, revealing a web of dark secrets within the peaceful town of Centerville, Ohio. On a stormy night in August 1991, Jana Brisco, a neighbor of the Laila family, made a startling discovery that would send shockwaves through the community. Jana, a curious and observant woman, had always suspected that there was more to Mildred's life than met the eye. As she rummaged through her attic, searching for an old photo album, she stumbled upon a dusty box tucked away in a corner. Intrigued, Jana opened it and found a collection of letters, carefully preserved over the years. To her astonishment, the letters were exchanges between Mildred and her own daughter, Jana. The contents of these letters painted a picture of a complex and tumultuous sexual relationship. They revealed a love that was tainted by deep-seated resentment and a constant power struggle. As Jana read through the letters, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The words on the pages were filled with anger, frustration, and a longing for freedom. It was clear that Jana, despite her love for her mother, harbored a deep-seated hatred towards her. The letters detailed the emotional and psychological abuse that Mildred had subjected Jana to throughout their relationship. They spoke of a woman who controlled every aspect of her daughter's existence, leaving her feeling trapped and suffocated. It became evident that Jana's relationship with Mildred was far from an idyllic May-December love story. The police were stunned by this revelation. They had initially focused their investigation on Angela, Mildred's daughter-in-law, and Jack, her son. But now, with the emergence of these letters, Jana became a potential suspect as well. The detectives delved deeper into Jana's life, searching for any signs of motive or opportunity. In the small town of Centerville, Ohio, the investigation into the tragic murder of Mildred Laila took an unexpected turn when a new suspect emerged. Jana Brisco, a 19-year-old neighbor known for her nosy nature and penchant for gossip, found herself under the watchful eye of law enforcement. Jana, with her outwardly friendly demeanor, had managed to hide a deep-seated resentment towards Mildred. But what shocked the police even more was the revelation of a secret sexual affair between the two women. As Jana Brisco, a neighbor of Mildred and Jana's mother, stumbled upon a hidden stash of love letters exchanged between Mildred and Jana, the police realized they had a potential motive on their hands. During the interrogation, Jana's emotions were a mix of anger, guilt, and a twisted sense of satisfaction. She revealed that her relationship with Mildred was a complicated web of love and resentment. Jana had long been drawn to Mildred's domineering personality, but at the same time, she harbored deep-seated anger towards her. As the police dug deeper into Jana's background, they discovered a troubled past. Jana had always been an outsider, struggling to fit in with her peers. She found solace in her secret sexual relationship with Mildred, a woman who seemed to understand her in a way no one else did. But this connection was tainted by the constant power struggle between them. Jana's resentment towards Mildred stemmed from years of feeling controlled and manipulated. She resented the way Mildred used their relationship as a means of exerting power over her. The police began to piece together a motive, as Jana's desire to break free from Mildred's control became increasingly evident. The investigation into Jana's involvement in Mildred's murder continued, as the police delved into her alibi and gathered evidence. They meticulously combed through phone records, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed the letters exchanged between Jana and Mildred. As the town of Centerville buzzed with speculation, the police were determined to uncover the truth. The investigation into Jana Brisco's potential role in the murder of Mildred Laila was far from over. In a stunning turn of events, the Centerville Police Department identified Angela Laila, 38, as the perpetrator behind the heinous murder of Mildred Laila, her mother-in-law. After an exhaustive investigation, Angela's motive for the crime was revealed, shedding light on the dark secrets that plagued this close-knit community in 1991. The investigation into Mildred's death began when Angela, who had endured years of abuse at the hands of her mother-in-law, made the horrifying discovery of Mildred's lifeless body. The scene was chilling, with a pillow placed forcefully over Mildred's face, suffocating her in her sleep. Angela, overwhelmed with shock and disbelief, immediately alerted the authorities, setting into motion a chain of events that would unravel the truth behind this tragic incident. As the investigation progressed, Angela, despite being known for her gentle demeanor and kind-hearted nature, emerged as the prime suspect. Her tumultuous relationship with Mildred, marked by constant criticism and physical abuse, including beatings and even whippings, provided a motive for the crime. The police interrogated Angela, desperate to uncover the truth behind Mildred's demise. Her response was a mix of anger, frustration, and a glimmer of relief, as she finally felt free from Mildred's control. After painstakingly piecing together the puzzle, the police ultimately identified Angela Laila as the murderer, motivated by a desperate desire to escape Mildred's controlling influence and to protect her family from further harm. Angela took matters into her own hands. Suffocating Mildred with a pillow, she sought to free herself from her mother-in-law's grip and ensure her family's safety. The murder was a tragic consequence of Angela's fear and frustration as she sought to regain control over her own life. The trial that followed Angela Laila's arrest was a gripping and emotional journey that captivated the residents of Centerville, Ohio. District Attorney Briana Alfonsi, known for her tenacity and sharp legal skills, led the prosecution's case against Angela. The courtroom was filled with tension as the trial unfolded, with the victim's family, friends, and curious onlookers anxiously awaiting justice. During the trial, the prosecution meticulously presented their evidence, aiming to prove Angela's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They showcased the pillow used to suffocate Mildred Laila, expertly linking it to Angela through DNA analysis. They also called upon witnesses, including neighbors who had heard heated arguments between Angela and Mildred, as well as medical professionals who testified to the extent of Mildred's physical abuse. Defense attorney Michael Carl Shrew, renowned for his ability to empathize with his clients, fought tirelessly to present Angela's side of the story. He painted a picture of a woman pushed to her limits, trapped in an abusive relationship with her mother-in-law. Shrew argued that Angela's actions were driven by desperation and a genuine fear for her family's safety. After days of intense deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Angela Laila was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions, with some expressing relief that justice had been served, while others questioned whether Angela's desperate circumstances should have been taken into account. Judge Mary Breedlove, known for her strict adherence to the law, delivered the sentencing. Angela was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the sentence sank in. Some found solace in the closure the sentencing brought, believing that Mildred's death had been avenged. Others, however, felt a sense of unease, wondering if Angela's punishment truly reflected the complexity of the situation. Following the conclusion of the trial, the lives of all those involved were forever altered. Angela Laila, now serving a life sentence, grappled with the profound repercussions of her actions. Confined within the walls of the Centerville Correctional Facility, Angela faced the daunting task of rebuilding her life behind bars. The routine of prison life became her new reality, as she navigated the daily challenges and sought solace in the limited freedoms she still possessed. Meanwhile, Jack Laila, finally liberated from the clutches of his domineering mother, embarked on a journey of self-discovery and healing. With the weight of his mother's influence lifted, Jack focused on rebuilding his shattered life and protecting his family from further harm. He immersed himself in his work at the local Pizza Hut, a popular dining choice for this Midwestern community starved of places to eat. Jana Brisco, burdened by the weight of guilt and regret, embarked on a path of redemption. Haunted by her secret affair with Mildred and the role it played in the tragic events that unfolded, Jana sought solace in the support of her family and the guidance of a therapist. In the aftermath of the trial, questions lingered in the minds of many. Some questioned whether justice had truly been served, while others found solace in the closure the trial brought. The impact of Mildred's death reverberated throughout the community, serving as a stark reminder of the destructive power of control and the length some will go to escape it. Laura Wilkey, age 35, was a journalist with an unwavering determination to expose corruption. Running her blog, Ocala After Dark, she fearlessly investigated local true crime stories and political figures. Laura possessed a sharp wit and infectious laughter that drew people to her. In her spare time, she enjoyed painting landscapes and exploring the hidden gems of the city. During the hot summer of July 2007, Ocala was buzzing with activity. The city's annual music festival, Ocala Jam Fest, brought together music lovers from all over the state. Laura, always on the lookout for a captivating story, attended the festival, documenting the vibrant atmosphere and interviewing both the up-and-coming and established bands. Her blog post about the event garnered attention from music enthusiasts and fellow journalists alike. But Laura's true passion lay in exposing the underbelly of the city. She dug deep into the lives of local politicians, unearthing scandals and shining a light on their questionable dealings. Her investigative pieces, such as the mayor's hidden secrets and the dark side of Ocala's elite, became the talk of the town. The local newspaper, Ocala Gazette, even featured her work on the front page, acknowledging her relentless pursuit of truth. Laura's determination, however, came with risks. She received anonymous threats and warnings to stay away from certain individuals. Yet, she remained undeterred, convinced that the truth needed to be revealed. Her latest investigation involved a prominent car dealership owner, Jonathan Range Rover Reed, who was rumored to have ties to organized crime. Laura delved into his background, following a trail of suspicious transactions and connections that led her deeper into the dangerous underworld. Little did Laura know her relentless pursuit of justice would have dire consequences. On a sweltering July afternoon, she received a tip about a secret meeting between Reed and a corrupt city council member. Determined to capture the evidence, Laura set up surveillance near a local coffee shop, Brood Awakening. As she discreetly snapped photographs, she had no idea that someone was poisoning her, eventually leaving her bedridden and, finally, dead. On the scorching morning of July 12, 2007, tragedy struck the quiet city of Ocala, Florida. At precisely 9 a.m., Jay Wilkey, the husband of renowned journalist Laura Wilkey, made a horrifying discovery that would forever change his life. The day had started like any other in the Wilkey household. The sun beat down mercilessly on the small suburban neighborhood as residents sought refuge in the coolness of their air-conditioned homes. But little did Jay know that this day would mark the beginning of a dark and perplexing chapter in his life. As Jay entered the bedroom, he was met with a sight that would haunt him for the rest of his days. There, lying motionless on the neatly made bed, was Laura, his beloved wife. Her once vibrant eyes were now closed forever, and her body lay still, as if frozen in time. The room was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by Jay's gasp of disbelief. The authorities were immediately summoned to the scene, their sirens piercing the otherwise tranquil neighborhood. As they meticulously combed through the room, searching for any clues that could shed light on this mysterious death, the air was thick with tension and uncertainty. In the days following Laura's untimely demise, the media frenzy surrounding the case reached a fever pitch. Headlines screamed with speculation, and armchair detectives dissected every detail, desperately trying to piece together the puzzle. News outlets like the Ocala Gazette and the Florida Times-Union dedicated countless column inches to the investigation, as the city held its breath, waiting for answers. As the investigation continued, the city of Ocala held its breath, anxiously awaiting the day when the truth behind Laura Wilkey's death would finally be unveiled. But for now, the answers remained elusive, shrouded in a web of secrecy and unanswered questions. In the heart of Ocala, a city known for its picturesque landscapes and vibrant community, a shocking crime took place that would leave the town in a state of disbelief. Laura Wilkey, a respected journalist and fearless investigator, met a tragic end on the scorching morning of July 12, 2007. Detectives Olivia Gressel and Mark Hastur, renowned for their meticulous approach to investigations, swiftly arrived at the scene. The Ocala Police Department was determined to solve this heinous crime and bring justice to Laura and her grieving loved ones. As they entered the house, a sense of eerie calm hung in the air. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that the killer had either been known to Laura or possessed a level of cunning that allowed them to gain access undetected. The detectives meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene, searching for any clue that could shed light on Laura's untimely demise. The house appeared immaculately clean, as if someone had meticulously tidied up after the crime. However, their attention was soon drawn to the cause of death: poisoning. The exact substance used remained a mystery, leaving the investigators puzzled and determined to uncover the truth. With a keen eye for detail, the detectives photographed every inch of the crime scene, capturing potential DNA samples and any other evidence that could potentially lead them to the killer. They knew that in order to solve this perplexing case, they would need to leave no stone unturned. As the investigation unfolded, the town of Ocala was gripped with a sense of unease. The investigation into Laura Wilkey's murder would prove to be a complex puzzle, one that would challenge the detectives' skills and test their resolve. As the summer heat continued to bear down on Ocala, the search for the truth intensified, leaving the town anxiously awaiting the day when justice would finally be served. The initial focus of the investigation turned towards Jay Wilkey, a 49-year-old man who owned a flourishing gardening supply store in Ocala, Florida. Known for his friendly demeanor and charm, Jay was a familiar face in the community, often seen mingling with customers and offering expert advice on horticulture. However, beneath this amiable facade, there were whispers of a darker side. Detectives Olivia Gressel and Mark Hastur, leading the investigation, delved into Jay's relationship with his wife Laura, searching for any clues that could shed light on a possible motive. They meticulously pieced together the puzzle of their marriage, uncovering a history of turbulence and hidden tensions. Friends and acquaintances were interviewed, and a pattern of arguments and heated exchanges emerged. As the detectives delved deeper into Jay's personal life, they discovered a series of text messages exchanged between him and Laura in the weeks leading up to her tragic demise. The messages were from Laura begging Jay to not go near her, something that obviously indicated cracks in the foundation of their marriage. The detectives, determined to uncover the truth, obtained a warrant to search Jay's phone records, hoping to find more evidence that could connect him to Laura's murder. Simultaneously, the investigators scoured the city for any potential witnesses who may have seen or heard something on the day of the crime. They examined surveillance footage from nearby establishments, hoping to catch a glimpse of any suspicious individuals lurking in the vicinity of Laura's home. As the case gained media attention, tips flooded in from concerned citizens, each one meticulously followed up on by the diligent detectives. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation seemed to hit a dead end. The detectives meticulously reviewed every piece of evidence, re-examining the crime scene photographs and the DNA samples collected. They consulted with forensic experts, hoping for a breakthrough that would crack the case wide open. Despite the mounting pressure, Jay Wilkey vehemently maintained his innocence. He hired a high-profile defense attorney who spoke to the media on his behalf, proclaiming his client's unwavering belief that the truth would prevail. Clara Pointer, a 28-year-old coworker and close friend of Laura Wilkey, emerged as a significant person of interest in the ongoing investigation into Laura's untimely death. Clara, like Laura, was a journalist, contributed articles for Laura's blog Ocala After Dark. She was known for her ambition and relentless pursuit of success. Mutual friends whispered about her burning desire to be the head of Ocala After Dark, the popular blog that Laura had built from the ground up. It was believed that Clara's envy of Laura's achievements may have fueled a sinister plot. During the police interrogation, Clara maintained an outwardly calm and collected demeanor, skillfully deflecting any suspicions that arose. She vehemently denied any involvement in Laura's murder, claiming that their friendship was genuine and that she had no reason to harm her colleague. Clara, for her part, pointed instead to Jay as the likely killer. She said Laura was deeply afraid of him, blaming him for the illness that led to her death. Clara said Laura repeatedly told her, "Don't let my husband near me. He wants me dead." However, the investigators uncovered some intriguing details that cast doubt on Clara's innocence. They have obtained surveillance footage from a nearby coffee shop showing Clara purchasing a bottle of a powerful sedative on the morning of July 12, 2007. The same sedative was found in Laura's system during the autopsy. This evidence, combined with Clara's undeniable ambition and rumored jealousy, raised eyebrows among the authorities. Furthermore, witnesses came forward, claiming that Clara had been overheard making disparaging remarks about Laura's success. One witness, who wished to remain anonymous, reported hearing Clara say, "I should be the one in charge of Ocala after dark. Laura doesn't deserve all the attention she's getting." Will Clara Pointer's carefully crafted facade crumble under the weight of the evidence against her? Or is there a hidden accomplice who remains undiscovered? Only time will tell as this gripping true crime case unravels before our eyes. A major breakthrough in the investigation of Laura Wilkey's murder occurred on the afternoon of July 17, 2007. The time was precisely 4 p.m., and the blistering heat of Ocala, Florida, remained relentless. Detectives Olivia Gressel and Mark Hastur stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence that would send shockwaves through the case. In their relentless pursuit of the truth, the detectives had been meticulously sifting through Laura's digital footprint. It was during this painstaking process that they unearthed a series of emails exchanged between Clara Pointer, a close friend and co-worker of Laura's, and David Yarborough, a private investigator renowned in the Ocala area. These emails provided a startling glimpse into the tangled web of deceit surrounding Laura's murder. Clara, it seemed, had been secretly seducing David to sabotage Laura's investigations. The content of the emails indicated that Laura had hired David to delve into the corrupt underbelly of Ocala's car dealership owner Jonathan, Range Rover Reed, with Clara acting as the intermediary. The detectives were astounded by this revelation. It raised a multitude of questions. What had Laura uncovered that was so dangerous? Who were the individuals involved in this web of corruption? And most importantly, why was Laura targeted? The implications of these emails were far-reaching. They suggested a motive for Clara's potential involvement in Laura's murder. Was she driven by jealousy and a desire to take over Ocala after dark, as rumors had suggested? Or was there something more sinister at play? As the investigation continued to unfold, the detectives were left with a myriad of unanswered questions. What other secrets lay hidden in the depths of Ocala's underbelly? And would they be able to bring Laura's killer to justice? The investigation took an unexpected turn on July 17, 2007, at around 4 p.m., when the Ocala police stumbled upon a series of emails exchanged between Clara Pointer, Laura Wilkey's co-worker and close friend, and David Yarborough, a private investigator hired by Laura to uncover corruption. These emails revealed a connection between Clara and David that raised eyebrows and left investigators scrambling to understand the implications. David Yarborough, a 45-year-old private investigator with a checkered past, had gained a reputation for his resourcefulness and determination in previous cases. He had been involved in Laura's high-profile corruption investigation, which had sent shockwaves through the local political scene. However, whispers began to circulate that David held a personal grudge against Laura for exposing his own misdeeds in the past. As the police interrogated David, his reaction was one of anger and frustration. He vehemently denied any involvement in Laura's murder, maintaining his innocence with unwavering conviction. The investigators delved into David's motives and connections to Clara, seeking to uncover any potential links that could shed light on the case. During the interrogation, David's past came under scrutiny. It was revealed that he had a history of working on high-stakes cases involving corruption and political scandals. Some of his previous clients included prominent figures in the local government, making him a well-known name in the realm of investigative journalism. However, as the investigation into Laura's murder unfolded, David's reputation began to crumble. The police dug deeper into David's personal life, interviewing his acquaintances and examining his financial records. They discovered that David had fallen on hard times in the months leading up to Laura's murder. He had been struggling to make ends meet, with mounting debts and a desperate need for a big break. This revelation raised suspicions about his involvement in Laura's death and added fuel to the growing fire of speculation surrounding the case. As the investigation continued, the police were determined to uncover the truth behind Laura Wilkey's untimely demise. With each new piece of evidence, The web of suspects grew more intricate and the motives became murkier. The clock was ticking, and the Ocala community held its breath, waiting for justice to prevail. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the untimely death of Laura Wilkey, the fearless journalist behind the renowned blog Ocala After Dark, took a sinister turn. After days of meticulous detective work, the police uncovered the true mastermind behind Laura's murder. Clara Pointer, a co-worker and friend who harbored a deep-seated jealousy and desire for power. Clara, a 28-year-old ambitious individual, had long coveted Laura's position as the head of Ocala After Dark. Rumors of her envy and resentment towards Laura's success had been circulating for months, but no one could have fathomed the extent of Clara's treachery. The police's breakthrough in the case came on July 17, 2007, when a series of emails between Clara and David Yarborough, a private investigator hired by Laura, were discovered. These emails shed light on Clara's nefarious plans to seduce and manipulate David, who had developed an unhealthy sexual obsession with Laura. David, a 45-year-old private investigator with a checkered past, had a personal vendetta against Laura for exposing his previous misdeeds. However, his twisted infatuation with her led him to inadvertently aid Clara in her sinister plot. The investigation revealed that Clara had been secretly poisoning Laura's coffee for months, gradually weakening her. Laura's haunting words, "Don't let my husband near me. He wants me dead," were uttered in her delirium as Clara's poison took its toll. It is a chilling reminder of the depths of Clara's manipulation and the tragic fate that awaited Laura. But Clara's web of deceit did not end there. She had exploited both Laura's husband, Jay Wilkey, and David, utilizing her sexuality and their vulnerabilities to further her sinister agenda. Clara knew that Jay's troubled marriage and volatile temper would make him an easy target for suspicion. She carefully orchestrated the murder to frame him, all while maintaining her facade of innocence. As the investigation unfolded, the police pieced together Clara's manipulative tactics, exposing the extent of her exploitation. With the evidence against her mounting, the police moved in to arrest Clara at her apartment. Her calculated use of sexuality and the vulnerabilities of those around her showcased a level of cunning that is truly chilling. The trial that followed the shocking murder of Laura Wilkey was nothing short of a gripping spectacle. The courtroom was packed with eager spectators, eager to witness justice being served. District Attorney Unity Collins led the prosecution, presenting a compelling argument that left no room for doubt. She meticulously laid out the evidence, highlighting Clara Pointer's jealousy and calculated actions. The defense attorney, Esmeralda Constable, fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the evidence and Clara's motives. She argued that the prosecution's case was built on circumstantial evidence and lacked a smoking gun. However, the weight of the evidence against Clara was overwhelming, leaving the defense with an uphill battle. Emotions ran high as Laura's family took their seats in the courtroom. They had endured months of heartache and uncertainty, desperately seeking justice for their beloved daughter. The trial became a battleground of conflicting narratives, with the prosecution painting Clara as a manipulative mastermind and the defense attempting to humanize her, portraying her as a victim of circumstances. Throughout the trial, the jury listened intently to the testimonies of witnesses, examined the physical evidence, and reviewed the damning emails exchanged between Clara and the private investigator, David Yarborough. The emails revealed Clara's sinister plans and her attempts to manipulate both Jay Wilkey and David. After hours of deliberation, the jury delivered their unanimous verdict, guilty. Clara Pointer was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and anguish as Laura's family and friends finally saw justice being served. The impact of the trial rippled through the community, leaving a lasting impression on the residents of Ocala, Florida. The trial became the topic of conversations at local diners and coffee shops, with everyone weighing in on the verdict and its implications. As the trial came to a close, Laura's family and friends were left grappling with the aftermath. The wounds caused by her untimely demise would never fully heal, but the verdict brought them a sense of closure. They could finally begin the process of healing and moving forward, cherishing the memories of Laura and the impact she had on their lives. In the aftermath of the trial, life took on a new normal for all those involved. Jay Wilkey, Laura's husband, who had been falsely accused, felt a mix of relief and grief. He sought solace in rebuilding his life, focusing on his gardening supply store and reconnecting with friends and family. Jay found comfort in the support of the Ocala community, who rallied behind him during the trial. He became an advocate for justice reform, using his own experience to raise awareness about wrongful accusations. David Yarborough, the private investigator who had unwittingly aided Clara Pointer in her plot, was consumed by guilt. He dedicated himself to making amends for his misplaced loyalty. David reached out to Laura's family, offering his sincere apologies and assistance in any way he could. He embarked on a personal journey of redemption, vowing to use his investigative skills for good and help other victims of manipulation and deceit. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, but the memory of Laura Wilkey remained etched in the hearts of those who knew her. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of jealousy and manipulation, but it also showcased the resilience of a community seeking justice. The impact of Laura's life and untimely death would forever serve as a reminder to cherish the truth and stand against those who seek to deceive. Albert Rizzy, a respected and hardworking man, was at the center of this shocking crime. At the age of 49, Albert held the esteemed position of bank manager at a local financial institution. Known for his unwavering dedication to his job, he had earned the admiration and respect of both his colleagues and friends. Albert's integrity and reliability had made him a pillar of the community. However, beneath the facade of professional success, Albert struggled with insecurities in his personal life, particularly within his marriage to Jana Brisco. Their relationship had been on shaky ground for months, with rumors circulating among their close-knit circle of friends. These rumors of infidelity whispered through the town, leaving a trail of broken trust in their wake. Despite the outward appearance of a happy marriage, whispers of tension and discontent filled the air. As we delve deeper into the life of Albert Rizzy, we uncover a man haunted by the demons of his own making. Friends recall his frequent visits to local bars, seeking solace in the bottom of a glass. The strain of his failing marriage and mounting work pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. The summer of 1982 was a tumultuous time in Carmel, Indiana. The town was abuzz with excitement over the upcoming Carmel Fest, an annual event that brought the community together in celebration. Amidst the cheerful atmosphere, a dark cloud loomed over the Rizzy household, casting a shadow on their once idyllic life. The murder of Albert Rizzy would send shockwaves through the town, leaving everyone questioning who could have committed such a heinous act. The quiet town of Carmel, Indiana, known for its picturesque neighborhoods and tight-knit community, would now be thrust into the spotlight. The residents, once feeling safe and secure, were now gripped by fear and uncertainty. Join us as we unravel the twisted web of secrets and lies that led to the tragic demise of Albert Rizzy. Stay tuned. We will delve deeper into the investigation and the shocking revelations that emerged. The tranquility of Carmel, Indiana's suburban neighborhood was shattered on the sunny morning of June 2, 1982, when a shocking and horrifying discovery was made. It was a day that would forever be etched in the memories of those who lived there. As the morning sun cast its warm glow over the neatly manicured lawns and picturesque houses, a neighbor, whose name we shall withhold for privacy reasons, went about their daily routine. Little did they know that this seemingly ordinary day would soon take a chilling turn. As they made their way towards Albert Rizzy's residence, a sense of unease began to creep in. Something felt amiss. Their heart raced, and a knot formed in their stomach. Upon reaching the front door, they hesitated for a moment, sensing an inexplicable foreboding. Summoning their courage, they entered the house, their footsteps echoing through the silent hallway. The air was heavy with an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant hum of a radio playing a popular tune from that summer. The neighbors' eyes darted around, searching for any signs of life. And then they saw it. In the dimly lit bedroom, bathed in the soft morning light filtering through the curtains, lay Albert Rizzy's lifeless body. The scene that unfolded before their eyes was straight out of a nightmare. The neighbors' heart pounded in their chest, their breath caught in their throat. Fear and panic washed over them like a tidal wave. They stumbled back, their minds struggling to comprehend the gruesome sight that lay before them. With trembling hands, They reached for their landline and dialed 911, their voice quivering as they informed the authorities of the horrifying discovery. Within minutes, the tranquil neighborhood was transformed into a hive of activity. Police cars, their sirens blaring, descended upon the scene. Yellow crime scene tape crisscrossed the area, marking it as a place of tragedy. Neighbors gathered in hushed clusters, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. The authorities swiftly responded to the distressing call from the quiet suburban neighborhood in Carmel, Indiana, on that sunny morning of June 2, 1982. Led by seasoned investigators, Detective Intrit and Officer Namazov, the police meticulously examined the crime scene where Albert Rizzy, a respected bank manager, had met his untimely demise. Upon entering the bedroom, the investigators were confronted with a haunting sight. The once pristine walls were now marred with splatters of blood, a chilling testament to the violence that had unfolded. The room itself seemed frozen in time, its atmosphere heavy with the weight of tragedy. Detective Intrit carefully surveyed the area, his experienced eyes honing in on every detail. He noted the position of the body, sprawled lifelessly on the floor, and the discarded gun nearby. The weapon, a .38 caliber revolver, had a distinct serial number etched onto its barrel. The detective made a mental note to cross-reference it with the local firearms database. Officer Namazov, armed with a camera, began meticulously documenting the scene. He captured close-up shots of the bloodstains on the walls, carefully noting their locations and patterns. Every angle was captured, ensuring that no crucial piece of evidence would be overlooked. The investigators knew the importance of thorough documentation in building a strong case. As the investigation progressed, the team discovered a few items of interest. A broken glass frame lay shattered on the floor, its remnants scattered around the room. Detective Intrit carefully collected the broken pieces, hoping to find fingerprints or other trace evidence. Nearby, a torn photograph caught Officer Namazov's attention. It depicted Albert and his wife Diana, smiling together at a local park. The torn edges suggested a possible struggle or argument. The investigators meticulously bagged and labeled each piece of evidence, ensuring a proper chain of custody. They knew that attention to detail was crucial, especially in a case that would undoubtedly attract media attention. The local newspapers, such as the Carmel Gazette, eagerly awaited updates on the investigation, and the police were determined to provide them with accurate information. The investigation had only just begun, and everyone knew that the road ahead would be filled with twists and turns. The investigation into the tragic murder of Albert Rizzy initially led to his wife, Jana Brisco, as the prime suspect. Diana, a 43-year-old woman of elegance and sophistication, had long been dissatisfied with her marriage to Albert. Behind closed doors, she sought solace and excitement in the arms of her lover, Jason Mulholland. As police delved deeper into Diana's life, they discovered a web of deceit and betrayal. Her affair with Jason had been ongoing for months, unbeknownst to Albert. The clandestine meetings between Diana and Jason took place in various locations around Carmel, Indiana, adding an air of secrecy to their illicit relationship. During the course of the investigation, police uncovered a series of sexually explicit love letters exchanged between Diana and Jason. These letters, filled with graphic details of sex acts and promises of a future together, shed light on the depth of their affair. They also found evidence of expensive gifts exchanged between the two lovers, including a gold necklace from Tiffany & Company, a popular jewelry store in June of 1982. When confronted with the evidence, Diana initially denied any involvement in her husband's murder. However, under the relentless questioning of the police, she eventually broke down and confessed to her role in the affair. She admitted to hating Albert, driven by her desire to be free from the constraints of her marriage, but not to the murder. Diana's confession of hatred and forbidden love sent shockwaves through the community, as the once respected wife and mother was revealed to be a cold-blooded adulteress. The media frenzy surrounding the case intensified, with headlines in local newspapers such as "Love Gone Wrong," "The Carmel Murder Scandal," and "Betrayal and Bloodshed." The dark side of suburbia. Our second suspect in the murder of Albert Rizzy was Jason Mulholland, a 21-year-old student at Ball State University. Jason, a charismatic young man with a penchant for adventure, found himself entangled in a web of love, deceit, and greed. Born and raised in the confining and very Midwestern surroundings of Muncie, Indiana, Jason was no stranger to the allure of the big city. He yearned for a life beyond the confines of his small-town upbringing, dreaming of fast cars, designer clothes, and the glamorous lifestyle he believed he deserved. It was this desire for wealth and luxury that drew him to Jana Brisco, Albert's wife. Diana, a sophisticated and elegant woman, seemed to embody everything Jason desired. Her refined taste and impeccable style captivated him, and he saw in her an opportunity to escape the ordinary. Their clandestine affair provided a thrilling escape from the monotony of Jason's college life, a taste of the high society he craved. But as the investigation unfolded, the police began to uncover a darker side to Jason's involvement. Financial gain appeared to be a motivating factor in the murder of Albert Rizzy. The authorities discovered a series of incriminating messages exchanged between Jason and Diana, discussing their plans to inherit Albert's substantial fortune. As the police subjected Jason to intense interrogation, his facade of innocence began to crumble. During the interrogation, Jason's demeanor shifted from confident to nervous. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead as he struggled to maintain his composure. His voice trembled as he attempted to explain his involvement, each word laced with desperation. "I never intended for things to go this far," Jason confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was blinded by my own desires, and I let greed consume me, but I never wanted anyone to get hurt." The investigators pressed further, seeking to uncover the full extent of Jason's role in the murder. As they delved deeper into his background, they discovered a troubling pattern of reckless behavior and a disregard for the consequences of his actions. With mounting evidence against him, Jason's fate hung in the balance. As the investigation continued, the truth behind Albert Rizzy's murder slowly came to light. The police meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots that would ultimately lead to justice. In the investigation into the murder of Albert Rizzy, the Carmel Police Department uncovered a significant breakthrough. On the morning of June 15, 1982, at approximately 9:30 a.m., Officer Roger Kraftwerk was conducting a routine search of the wooded area near the crime scene when he stumbled upon a discarded shoebox hidden beneath a dense thicket of bushes. The shoebox, weathered and worn, contained a trove of valuable evidence that could potentially shed light on the identity of the perpetrator. Inside, investigators found a series of handwritten letters, photographs, and a small, blood-stained diary. The contents of these items, meticulously preserved within the box, have opened up new avenues of inquiry for the dedicated detectives working tirelessly to solve this baffling case. The letters, addressed to an individual known only as A.R., appear to be written by someone deeply familiar with Albert Rizzy's personal life. The author's words, filled with a chilling mix of love and resentment, hint at a long-standing grudge and a desire for revenge. The photographs, capturing candid moments from Albert's life, provide a haunting glimpse into the past. Among them, a picture of Albert and his wife Diana, smiling together on their wedding day, now takes on a more sinister meaning. The blood-stained diary, belonging to Albert himself, contained cryptic entries that speak of a growing paranoia and fear. The final entry, dated just days before his untimely demise, mentions an encounter with an unknown individual who threatened to expose a dark secret from Albert's past. Could this revelation be connected to his murder? The third suspect in the murder of Albert Rizzy was Carolina Coco Keeling, a 65-year-old neighbor residing in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana. Coco, known for her friendly demeanor and nosy nature, prided herself on being well-informed about the happenings in the community. However, behind her seemingly pleasant facade, Coco concealed a secret addiction to cocaine and a deep-seated jealousy towards the seemingly perfect marriage of Diana and Albert. As the police delved deeper into the investigation, suspicions arose regarding Coco's potential involvement in the heinous crime. Her close proximity to the Rizzy residence and her knowledge of the neighborhood's inner workings made her a person of interest. The police sought to uncover any hidden motives or connections between Coco and the victim. During the intense interrogation, Coco's demeanor shifted from friendly neighbor to a woman on edge. Her eyes darted nervously as she answered the investigators' questions. She claimed to have no knowledge of the events leading to Albert's murder, expressing shock and disbelief at the news of his untimely demise. However, the investigators were not easily swayed. They probed deeper, presenting Coco with evidence that contradicted her initial claims of innocence. They discovered that Coco had been seen in the vicinity of the Rizzy residence on the morning of June 2nd, the day Albert's lifeless body was discovered. Witnesses reported seeing Coco acting suspiciously, her usually friendly demeanor replaced with an air of unease. Furthermore, the police uncovered a series of phone calls between Coco and Diana in the days leading up to the murder. The content of these calls raised eyebrows, as they involved discussions about Albert's financial affairs and the possibility of a life insurance policy. The investigators suspected that Coco, driven by her addiction and jealousy, may have been entangled in a sinister plot to eliminate Albert for personal gain. As the interrogation intensified, Coco's initial denials began to crumble. She broke down, confessing to her involvement in the murder. Coco revealed that she had been manipulated by someone in the Rizzy family who promised her a share of the life insurance payout in exchange for her assistance. Overwhelmed by her addiction and fueled by envy, Coco succumbed to the cunning plan. The investigators, armed with this newfound information, were one step closer to unraveling the truth behind Albert Rizzy's murder. Their relentless pursuit of justice had led them down a twisted path where the veneer of suburban tranquility had been shattered by greed, addiction, and betrayal. In a shocking turn of events, the true identity of Albert Rizzy's murderer was uncovered by the diligent work of the police. It was none other than his own wife, Jana Brisco, who emerged as the accused killer. The motive behind this heinous act was driven by a desire for freedom, passion, and financial security, all provided by Albert's life insurance policy. However, the truth took an even more sinister twist when it was revealed that Diana's own 16-year-old daughter, Sky Rizzy, was labeled as the actual mastermind behind the murder. Motivated by deep-seated feelings of neglect and resentment, Sky orchestrated her father's demise by psychologically manipulating her mother and her mother's lover, Jason Mulholland, a 21-year-old student at Ball State. Throughout the investigation, the police meticulously collected evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. They discovered a trail of incriminating phone calls exchanged between Sky, Diana, and Jason, detailing their sinister intentions. Additionally, surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store captured the pair purchasing the murder weapon, a gun, just days before the crime took place. The police investigation uncovered a web of deceit and betrayal that had been carefully woven by this trio. Diana's and Jason's arrest left the community in a state of disbelief, as they struggled to comprehend how a seemingly devoted wife and mother could be capable of such a heinous act. The shockwaves reverberated through the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana, where the Rizzy family had once resided. In the aftermath of this shocking revelation, the community of Carmel, Indiana, was left to heal and rebuild. The wounds inflicted by this tragic event would take time to mend, as the echoes of this true crime case would forever resonate within the hearts and minds of those who were touched by it. In the summer of 1982, the small town of Carmel, Indiana became the epicenter of a gripping murder trial that captivated the state of Indiana. The courtroom, adorned with its polished oak panels and imposing judge's bench, was transformed into a stage where justice would ultimately prevail. The prosecution, led by the tenacious district attorney, Eric Swift, presented a compelling case against Jana Brisco, the accused murderer. With meticulous attention to detail, Eric Swift meticulously pieced together the evidence, revealing the depth of Diana's betrayal. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as he painted a vivid picture of her motive, a desire for freedom, passion, and financial security provided by her husband Albert's life insurance policy. The defense, represented by the seasoned attorney Elizabeth Holmes Narwhal, fought tooth and nail to establish doubt in the minds of the jury. Holmes Narwhal skillfully questioned the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. She argued that the evidence was circumstantial at best, and that Diana was being unfairly scapegoated for a crime she did not commit. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Witnesses took the stand, recounting their interactions with Diana, Sky, and Jason. The jury listened intently, their eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. The media, hungry for sensational stories, filled the courtroom benches, their pens scribbling furiously as they captured every twist and turn. After days of riveting testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. The nation held its breath as they weighed the evidence and deliberated on Diana's fate. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the jury returned with their verdict. Jana Brisco was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers as the reality of the verdict sank in. Diana's face remained stoic, betraying no emotion. The judge, his voice filled with authority, pronounced the sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. As the media frenzy subsided and the town slowly returned to its normal rhythm, Riverton was left to pick up the pieces. The impact of the trial reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Following the conclusion of the highly publicized trial, the lives of those involved were forever changed. Carolina Coco Keeling, the nosy neighbor who had harbored deep-seated jealousy towards the Rizzy family, found herself ostracized by the community. The revelation of her secret addiction to cocaine only intensified the disdain towards her. The local newspaper, the Indianapolis Gazette, ran a scathing expose on Coco's double life, further tarnishing her already damaged reputation. She retreated from public view, seeking solace in the anonymity of her small apartment. Sky Rizzy, the 15-year-old daughter of the victim and the accused mastermind, faced a long and arduous road to redemption. Plagued by feelings of neglect and resentment, her involvement in her father's murder shocked the community to its core. The media frenzy surrounding the trial painted Sky as a troubled and misguided teenager. The local television station, Wish TV, aired a special report on the impact of the trial on Sky's life, delving into her troubled life and the psychological factors that led to her involvement in the crime. There were even rumors she would be played by Drew Barrymore in a made-for-TV movie. Sky was placed in a juvenile detention center where she underwent intensive therapy and counseling in an attempt to rehabilitate her. Jason Mulholland, the young lover of Jana Brisco, faced a bleak future. His dreams of a luxurious lifestyle were shattered as he found himself behind bars. The local radio station, WFBQ-FM, covered Jason's sentencing, highlighting the role he played in the heinous crime. With his youthful charm now overshadowed by his criminal actions, Jason struggled to come to terms with the consequences of his choices. The loss of Albert Rizzy, a beloved member of the community, left a void that could never be filled. The local church, St. John's Episcopal Church, held a memorial service to honor Albert's memory, providing solace to his grieving family and friends. The community rallied around the Rizzy family, offering support and condolences during their time of need. As the months passed, the small town of Carmel, Indiana returned to its usual rhythm, but the scars of the tragedy remained. The impact of the events that unfolded in June of 1982 continued to reverberate through the lives of those involved, forever altering their paths. And so, the story of Albert Rizzy's murder comes to an end. In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Carmel, Indiana, the dark underbelly of seemingly idyllic lives was exposed. Love, betrayal, and a shocking twist left an indelible mark on all those involved. Emily Treacle, a 34-year-old marketing manager from Greenville, South Carolina, was a force to be reckoned with in September of 2009. Known for her outgoing personality and infectious laughter, she charmed everyone she met. Despite her professional success, Emily always prioritized her loved ones, especially her son Lawson, 14. Her dedication to balancing her career and family made her a beloved figure among her family and friends. In September of 2009, Emily's life was at its peak. She had recently landed a prestigious position at a renowned marketing firm, Greenville Marketing Solutions, where she spearheaded successful campaigns for well-known brands like Apple, Nike, and Coca-Cola. Her colleagues described her as a creative genius, always coming up with innovative ideas that captivated audiences. Outside of work, Emily was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local animal shelter, where she rescued and fostered numerous stray animals. Her love for animals was evident in her home, which was filled with the joyful barks and woofs of her beloved golden retriever, Joseph Clay Powell. Emily's social life was vibrant as well. She was a regular at the Trini coffee shop, Cafe Mocha, where she would meet with friends to discuss the latest gossip or exchange book recommendations. Her favorite pastime was attending live music events, and she often frequented the popular music venue, the Blue Note, where she would dance the night away with her friends. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life, darkness lurked. Emily's marriage to her husband, Adam Treacle, was not as idyllic as it appeared. Friends and family had noticed the strain in their relationship, with arguments becoming more frequent and intense, especially about Lawson, who was Emily's son from a previous relationship. Despite their troubles, Emily remained fiercely loyal to Adam, determined to make their marriage work. Little did Emily know that her loyalty would lead to her untimely demise. As we delve deeper into this chilling murder investigation, we will uncover the shocking secrets and hidden motives that ultimately led to Emily's tragic end. On a warm September evening in 2009, tragedy struck the tranquil town of Greenville, South Carolina. The peaceful atmosphere was shattered by the sound of 6 gunshots that pierced the air, leaving the community in shock and disbelief. The victim, Emily Treacle, a 34-year-old marketing manager, met her untimely demise while innocently waiting in her car at a drive-through Burger King. The fateful scene was discovered by a concerned citizen named Patty Bell Gomery, who happened to be passing by at that very moment. As she glanced towards Emily's vehicle, her eyes were immediately drawn to the lifeless figure slumped behind the wheel. The sight sent a wave of fear and disbelief coursing through her veins, leaving her trembling with apprehension. Without wasting a moment, Patty Bell Gomery swiftly dialed 911, her voice quivering as he relayed the harrowing details to the emergency operator. Her words were laden with a mix of shock and horror as she described the grisly tableau that had unfolded before his eyes. The operator, well-versed in handling such distressing calls, calmly guided Patty Bell through the necessary steps while assuring him that help was on the way. As the minutes ticked by, Patty Bell's mind raced, trying to make sense of the senseless violence that had befallen this quiet corner of Greenville. The once serene neighborhood now buzzed with the presence of law enforcement officers, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow on the surrounding area. News vans from local media outlets descended upon the scene, eager to capture every detail of this shocking crime. As the investigation unfolded, officers meticulously combed through the area, collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses. The drive-through Burger King, now a haunting backdrop to this heinous act, became a focal point for detectives seeking any clues that might shed light on the identity of the perpetrator. Meanwhile, news of Emily's tragic death spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. Friends, family, and colleagues were left reeling from the loss of a vibrant and beloved individual. The shockwaves of this crime reverberated far beyond the boundaries of Greenville, leaving a lasting impact on all who heard the news. The Greenville Police Department swiftly responded to the distress call that came in on that fateful September evening in 2009. Detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, both seasoned investigators with a reputation for their meticulous approach, took charge of the investigation. Upon arriving at the scene, the detectives were met with a chilling sight. Emily Treacle's car, a silver Chevrolet Impala, was parked near the drive-thru of a Burger King. The car itself was stained with blood, a grim reminder of the violence that had unfolded just moments earlier. Detective Leach, a woman of unwavering determination, meticulously combed through the vehicle, searching for any clues that could shed light on the identity of the killer. She carefully examined the seats, noting the presence of a small tear in the upholstery, which could potentially be a valuable piece of evidence. Detective Brownlee, known for his keen eye for detail, focused his attention on the exterior of the car, inspecting it for any signs of forced entry or tampering. As the investigation progressed, the detectives discovered a discarded gun near the crime scene. The weapon, a Glock 17, was a popular choice among law enforcement agencies at the time. Its presence raised questions about who the perpetrator could be and what their motive might have been. The detectives carefully bagged the gun, ensuring that it would be preserved as evidence for further analysis. As the investigation unfolded, news of Emily Treacle's murder spread throughout the community, sending shockwaves through Greenville and beyond. Local news outlets, such as the Greenville News and WYFF News 4, covered the story extensively, urging anyone with information to come forward and assist the police in their search for justice. Adam Treacle, a 36-year-old unemployed accountant, found himself thrust into the spotlight as the prime suspect in the shocking murder of his wife, Emily Treacle. The investigation took a chilling turn as detectives delved into the depths of Adam's troubled mind, searching for any clues that could link him to the crime. In the aftermath of the Great Recession, Adam had fallen victim to the economic turmoil that plagued the nation. The loss of his job as an accountant had left him feeling emasculated and overshadowed by his successful wife. Friends and neighbors whispered about the resentment that simmered beneath Adam's calm facade. Detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, seasoned professionals with a reputation for their meticulous approach, meticulously combed through Adam's life, searching for any hint of a motive. They discovered a series of incriminating text messages exchanged between Adam and an unknown number, suggesting a secret affair. The detectives traced the number to a burner phone, a device commonly used by individuals seeking to conceal their illicit activities. Further investigation revealed that Adam had recently taken out a life insurance policy on Emily, a fact that raised eyebrows and fueled suspicions. The policy, worth a staggering $1 million, would have provided Adam with a substantial financial windfall in the event of Emily's untimely demise. The timing of this policy, coinciding with Adam's growing resentment towards his wife's success, raised red flags within the investigative team. As the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a web of lies and deceit. Adam had been secretly meeting with a divorce attorney, fueling speculation that he was planning to end his marriage and secure a substantial settlement. The motive for murder became increasingly clear. Adam stood to gain financially from Emily's death, and his actions leading up to that fateful September evening hinted at a plan in motion. The investigation continued, with detectives meticulously analyzing surveillance footage from nearby establishments, hoping to catch a glimpse of Adam's movements on the night of the murder. They also interviewed friends and acquaintances, piecing together a timeline of events leading up to Emily's tragic end. Sarah Bezelrand, a co-worker of Emily Treacle, emerged as a person of interest in the perplexing murder investigation. Originally from Pretoria, South Africa, Sarah's ambitious nature and competitive spirit made her a formidable presence in the workplace. However, behind closed doors, her relationship with Emily took a more intimate and sexual turn. Police theorized Sarah's motive for murder could be traced back to the breakup of her torrid affair with Emily. As September of 2009 unfolded, tensions between the two women escalated, fueled by jealousy and a desire for professional advancement. Sarah saw Emily as a rival, a formidable obstacle standing in the way of her own career aspirations. The police had also been diligently investigating the possibility that Sarah manipulated Adam Treacle, Emily's husband, into carrying out the heinous act. They explored the theory that Sarah, driven by her desperation to secure a promotion and eliminate her ex-lover, devised a plan to involve Adam in the murder plot. During the interrogation, Sarah maintained a calm facade, skillfully concealing her true intentions behind an empty smile. She denied any involvement in Emily's death, insisting that she had moved on from their tumultuous relationship. However, detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee remained vigilant, aware of the potential danger lurking beneath Sarah's composed exterior. As the investigation delves deeper into the lives of Sarah and Adam, the detectives uncovered a web of secrets and hidden desires. September of 2009 was a time of great uncertainty, with the lingering effects of the Great Recession casting a shadow over the nation. It was a period when individuals, like Sarah and Adam, found themselves grappling with their own personal frustrations and disappointments. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives were determined to uncover the truth behind Emily Treacle's tragic demise. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were high. Would they be able to untangle the web of deceit and betrayal that surrounds this chilling murder? Only time would tell. In the quiet town of Greenville, South Carolina, the Treacle family tragedy unfolded like a scene from a primetime crime drama. 14-year-old Lawson Treacle found himself at the center of a police investigation that gripped the community. The young teen, known for his curiosity and sometimes intrusive nature, was the son of the victim, Emily Treacle, and stepson to the prime suspect, Adam Treacle. Lawson, a student at the local middle school, was often seen skateboarding around the neighborhood, headphones on, lost in his own world. His friends described him as a smart kid, always with his nose in a book or working on his latest science project. But beneath the surface, Lawson harbored deep resentment towards his stepfather, Adam, whom he saw as an intruder in the close bond he shared with his mother. During the interrogation, Lawson's demeanor was a mix of teenage defiance and vulnerability. He spoke of his mother with warmth, recalling how she would cheer the loudest at his soccer games and was always there to help with homework. When asked about Adam, Lawson's tone shifted. He described feeling like an outsider when Adam entered their lives, a sentiment that only grew over time. Detectives probed for any sign of Lawson's involvement or knowledge of the crime. They questioned him about the gun found at the scene, but Lawson insisted he had never seen it before. He recounted his last conversation with his mother, a typical exchange about weekend plans and a reminder to do his chores. The interrogation revealed a troubled relationship between Lawson and Adam, but no evidence to suggest Lawson's involvement in the crime. The detectives concluded that the young teen, while troubled by family dynamics, was not capable of such violence. Instead, they turned their attention back to the other suspects, with Adam Treacle and Sarah Bezelrand remaining at the forefront of the investigation. As the case unfolded, the community rallied around Lawson, offering support and condolences. The story of the Treacle family tragedy served as a stark reminder of the complexities of family relationships and the impact of loss on a small town. Lawson, once a suspect, was now seen as a young boy who had lost his mother too soon, a victim of circumstances beyond his control. In the quiet city of Greenville, South Carolina, the case of Emily Treacle's murder had gripped the community with fear and uncertainty. But as the autumn leaves began to turn, signaling the change of seasons in the fall of 2009, a breakthrough emerged in the investigation that would bring a chilling resolution to the mystery. The Greenville Police Department, led by detectives Erica Leach and JoJo Brownlee, had been tirelessly piecing together the puzzle of Emily's untimely death. The evidence, meticulously gathered from the crime scene at the Burger King drive-thru, pointed to one individual, Adam Treacle, Emily's own husband. Adam, a 36-year-old unemployed accountant, had found himself jobless amidst the Great Recession, a time when financial turmoil was felt across the nation. His wife's success as a marketing manager only deepened his sense of inadequacy and resentment. It was this toxic mix of jealousy and financial desperation that detectives believe drove Adam to commit the unthinkable. On the fateful night of September 17th, Adam executed his plan. While Emily sat in her car while in line at the Burger King drive-thru, he approached under the cover of darkness and fired 6 shots, ending her life in a matter of seconds. The gun, a .38 caliber revolver, a stark symbol of his guilt, was found discarded near the scene, its serial number traced back to Adam. The detectives, armed with this evidence, confronted Adam during a tense interrogation. He sat across from them, his face a mask of stoic calm, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of panic. As the questions grew more pointed, his facade began to crumble. The evidence was irrefutable, and Adam's silence spoke volumes. On September 28th, Adam Treacle's fate was sealed. He was arrested and charged with the murder of Emily Treacle. The news of his arrest spread quickly, making headlines in local papers and becoming the talk of the town. As Adam was led away in handcuffs, the community of Greenville breathed a collective sigh of relief. The man who had walked among them, harboring a dark secret, was now behind bars. Emily's family, though still mourning the loss of their vibrant loved one, found solace in the fact that justice was being served. In the fall of 2009, a real-life drama unfolded in Greenville, South Carolina. The trial of Adam Treacle, accused of the cold-blooded murder of his wife Emily, shot dead in a Burger King drive-thru, captured the attention of the local community and beyond. The courtroom was tense as prosecutor Zara Mitchell laid out the case against Adam. She painted a picture of a man overwhelmed by jealousy, who meticulously planned the murder of his successful wife to collect her life insurance. The evidence was compelling: financial records, the testimony of co-workers, and the murder weapon linked to Adam. Defense attorney Elodie Campbell fought to create doubt, suggesting that the evidence was circumstantial and that Adam was a loving husband incapable of such a crime. However, the jury was not swayed. They had heard the 911 call, seen the crime scene photos, and now they delivered their verdict: guilty. The decision came down on a day when the MTV Video Music Awards were making headlines, but for the people of Greenville, this local news was far more significant. The courtroom was silent, save for the sound of Emily's family softly crying as the judge pronounced the sentence. Life without parole. Adam Treacle's face, once stoic, now showed the gravity of his situation. He had been unmasked not as the quiet, unemployed accountant, but as a murderer driven by envy. The trial, which had been the subject of local news segments and newspaper articles, was over. As the gavel fell, the community reflected on the tragedy. Emily Treacle, remembered for her vibrant personality and dedication to her family, had become a symbol of a life taken too soon. The verdict offered closure to some, but for others, it was a reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human emotion. The case of the state versus Adam Treacle would be remembered not just for its outcome, but for the conversations it sparked about love, jealousy, and justice. And as the leaves began to change color, signaling the end of November, the people of Greenville would move forward, carrying with them the memory of the trial that had captivated their town. The town of Greenville, South Carolina, was slowly healing from the wounds of a tragedy that had shaken its core. The trial of Adam Treacle for the murder of his wife, Emily, had concluded, leaving a community to grapple with the aftermath. Adam Treacle, now a convicted murderer, faced a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The verdict, delivered on a day when the Toronto International Film Festival celebrated cinematic achievements, marked the end of his freedom. He was confined to a cell, his only company the ghosts of his past actions. Sarah Bezelrand, Emily's former lover and co-worker, also faced the consequences of her involvement. Though not convicted, her reputation was tarnished, her career prospects dimmed. She returned to her native South Africa, but whispers followed her every move, her new colleagues viewing her with suspicion and unease. The community of Greenville, once bustling with the excitement of the upcoming football season and the release of new video games, now found itself in a somber state. The local Burger King, the site of Emily's murder, became a grim landmark, a place many avoided, its drive-through a reminder of the night that changed everything. For Lawson, the teenage son left without a mother, life was a series of adjustments. He returned to school, his classmates tiptoeing around the subject of his loss. Football games and school dances were no longer just rites of passage. They were moments tinged with the absence of his mother's cheering presence. The Treacle case was a stark reminder of the complexities of human emotions and the consequences of actions driven by jealousy and greed. As Greenville looked to the future, the community held onto the hope that such darkness would never again touch their lives. Greenville, South Carolina, will forever bear the scars of this twisted murder investigation. The tragic death of Emily Treacle shattered the illusion of safety in this quiet suburban community. Through the tireless efforts of the police and the resilience of Emily's loved ones, justice was served, but the scars left behind will never truly fade away. In the summer of 2001, as the world slowly adjusted to the new millennium, Ray Trusk, a 53-year-old life insurance analyst from Plano, Texas, was preparing to celebrate a milestone that many couples dream of but few reach: his 20th wedding anniversary. Ray, a father of 3, was known in his community as a man of integrity and dedication. He had built a stable career at New Life Financial, a reputable firm known for its competitive edge in the bustling Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. A graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, Ray had climbed the ranks through sheer determination and a knack for numbers. His colleagues often described him as the first to arrive and the last to leave the office, a testament to his work ethic. Ray's life at home was no less exemplary. His wife, Dinah, and their children were the center of his world. Neighbors would often see the Truskett family at community events or hear about their travels to places like the Grand Canyon or Disney World, the latter being featured in a 2001 Disney vacation planning VHS that had just been released. Ray's personality was a blend of the analytical mind of an insurance analyst and the warm heart of a family man. He was known for his dry wit, often referencing the latest Dilbert comic strip, which amusingly captured the quirks of corporate culture. His dreams, though, were not confined to spreadsheets and actuarial tables. Ray aspired to see his children graduate from college and to one day retire to a quiet life, perhaps in the Texas Hill Country, where he and Dinah could enjoy their golden years. In the days leading up to his death, Ray was seen in high spirits, even mentioning to his neighbor about his anticipation for the U2 Elevation Tour concert, scheduled for later that year. He had been meticulously planning the anniversary cruise, set to embark from Galveston, Texas, aboard the majestic Voyager of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean vessel famed for its luxurious amenities and scenic routes. Little did anyone know that this journey, meant to celebrate 2 decades of love and commitment, would be his last. On the morning of June 15, 2001, as the Voyager of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise liner, cut through the tranquil waters of the Gulf of Mexico, an unsettling discovery was made that would mar the ship's record of idyllic voyages. It was approximately 7:30 a.m. when the body of Ray Trusk, a 53-year-old life insurance analyst from Plano, Texas, was spotted by a fishing boat, the Sea Sprite, captained by Marcus Caldwell. The vessel, a common sight in these waters, was out for its regular trawl when it stumbled upon the grim scene. The weather was uncharacteristically mild for a June morning, with a soft breeze that offered little solace to the crew of the Sea Sprite as they grappled with their find. Captain Caldwell, a seasoned mariner, was taken aback by the sight of the lifeless body bobbing in the gentle swells. His initial shock quickly turned to action as he radioed the Coast Guard, his voice steadied but tinged with the gravity of the situation. The crew, maintaining their composure, secured the area to preserve the integrity of what was now a crime scene. The discovery sent ripples through the media, with local news channels like KHU interrupting their regular programming to report on the incident. The cruise ship, which had set sail from Galveston, a port city still bustling with tourists flocking to attractions like Moody Gardens and the recently opened Schlitterbahn water park, was now the center of a tragic narrative. As the news of the discovery reached the ship, passengers who had been enjoying amenities such as the ship's ice skating rink and mini golf course were struck by a palpable sense of disbelief. The vacationers, many of whom were Texans looking to escape the early summer heat, were now witnesses to a real-life drama unfolding in the midst of their leisure. The serene morning of June 15, 2001, aboard the Voyager of the Seas was abruptly shattered when word of Ray Trusk's untimely death reached the ship's captain. Within hours, the vessel, a floating city that boasted a rock-climbing wall and an opulent dining hall, transformed into a somber crime scene. The U.S. Coast Guard, alongside the FBI, tasked with investigating crimes on international waters, quickly dispatched their best agents to the ship, which was now anchored off the coast of Galveston, Texas. Detective Corrine Henning and Detective George Givens were among the first to arrive. Henning, with a reputation for her unerring gut instinct, and Givens, known for his methodical approach to crime solving, stepped onto the ship with a sense of urgency. The media frenzy had already begun, with outlets broadcasting live updates, fueling public interest and speculation. The detectives made their way to stateroom 7156, the last known location of the victim. To their seasoned eyes, the interior of the room appeared undisturbed, the bed neatly made, and personal effects arranged as if awaiting their owner's return. However, the balcony presented a stark contrast. Chairs were overturned, and a single glass lay shattered, its fragments catching the morning light, a silent testament to the struggle that had occurred. The crime scene was meticulously processed. Forensic teams dusted for fingerprints, combed through fibers, and collected DNA samples, while the ship's CCTV footage was seized for review. The investigators' presence was a solemn reminder to the passengers that their idyllic retreat had been breached by violence. As the investigation unfolded, the world outside continued its pace. In the background, faint sounds could be heard from the ship's onboard entertainment system, a hit song of the time, now a jarring soundtrack to a tragedy. The detectives, unfazed by the ship's grandeur or the distractions of the media, focused on the grim task at hand, piecing together the final moments of Ray Trusk's life and identifying his killer. As the Voyager of the Seas remained anchored, a mere silhouette against the June sky, the investigation into Ray Trusk's death turned to those closest to him. Dinah Truskett, 51, the victim's wife of 20 years, became the focus of intense scrutiny. Known for her gentle demeanor and her role as a devoted homemaker, Dinah was the archetype of suburban tranquility in Plano, Texas, a city that prided itself on being one of the best places to live in America. According to a CNN Money magazine feature that year, Dinah's life was seemingly filled with PDA meetings and Sunday family barbecues. Her dreams were modest, a happy family, a comfortable home, and the joy of seeing her children succeed. Yet, beneath the veneer of domestic bliss, detectives wondered if there lay a motive for murder. The interrogation was conducted away from the prying eyes of the public, who were busy discussing the case on internet forums, a burgeoning trend in the early 2000s. Detectives Henning and Givens, in a room with views of the endless ocean, questioned Dinah. Her responses were punctuated by moments of confusion and long pauses. She struggled to account for her whereabouts at the time her husband was believed to have been thrown overboard. Her alibi, that she had been asleep in their stateroom, offered little in the way of corroboration. Despite her seemingly oblivious nature, Dinah's reactions during the interrogation raised suspicion. Was her demeanor a mask for something more sinister, or simply the shock of a grieving widow? The detectives took note of her every word and gesture, aware that in cases such as these, the truth was often hidden in plain sight. As the investigation continued, the question remained, was Dinah Truscott a heartbroken spouse or a cunning adversary? The inquiry into Ray Truscott's death intensified as the focus shifted to Bob Hackles, a 56-year-old colleague of the victim. Hackles, a seasoned insurance analyst at New Life Financial, was aboard the Voyager of the Seas with his family. His outward persona was that of an affable family man, yet beneath this facade was a clandestine relationship with Ray that, if exposed, could upend his life. Hackles' presence on the cruise was ostensibly for leisure, alongside his Russian wife, Irina, and their 2 children. However, investigators suspected that his true motive may have been rooted in the tangled web of his secret romantic involvement with the victim. The early 2000s were a time of contrasting attitudes towards such relationships, with television shows like Will and Grace bringing LGBTQ themes into mainstream media. Yet many still faced societal pressures to conform to traditional family structures. During the interrogation, Hackles maintained a calm exterior, answering questions with measured responses. Hackles was unflappable, even as detectives probed for a crack in his composure, seeking to understand the nature of his relationship with Ray and the potential for jealousy or betrayal to have driven him to murder. The police were methodical in their approach, aware that the success of shows like CSI Crime Scene Investigation, which had captivated audiences with its portrayal of forensic science, had raised public expectations for swift and conclusive detective work. They scrutinized Hackles' alibi, cross-referencing it with witness statements and security footage, determined to uncover whether his calm was a facade for a more turbulent inner turmoil. As the investigation delved deeper, the question loomed: could Bob Hackles, the man who shared whispered confidences and stolen moments with Ray Truscott, be capable of ending the life of the man he loved? On June 17, 2001, 2 days after the discovery of Ray Truscott's body, a new piece of evidence surfaced aboard the Voyager of the Seas. The morning was marked by a gentle Gulf breeze as a crew member, performing routine maintenance along the starboard side of the ship, noticed something unusual. Caught on a piece of protruding metalwork was a fragment of fabric, navy blue, with a distinctive pattern that matched a shirt belonging to Bob Hackles, one of the prime suspects in the case. The finding was a potential turning point in the investigation, a tangible clue in a case that had thus far offered few. The fragment was immediately secured and sent for forensic analysis, with the hope that it might yield DNA or other materials that could link the suspect to the crime scene. The media, always hungry for a new angle on the story, began to speculate on the implications of this development. The FBI agents, well-versed in the nuances of evidence collection and its role in building a case, treated the discovery with the gravity it deserved. The weather, which had been a mix of sun and cloud, seemed to mirror the uncertainty that hung over the ship as passengers and crew alike pondered the significance of the find. As the news of the fabric fragment reached the mainland, it became a topic of discussion on news programs, where anchors dissected the latest developments with legal experts. The cruise ship, once a symbol of escape and relaxation, had become the backdrop for a narrative that was as gripping as any summer blockbuster, with the added weight of real-world consequence. The investigators, for their part, continued their meticulous work, aware that in the world of criminal justice, unlike the instant gratification of winning a game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, patience and thoroughness were the keys to uncovering the truth. The investigation's next chapter unfolded as attention turned to Carl Bauhines, a 49-year-old librarian from Largo, Florida, whose connection to Ray Truscott added another layer of complexity to the case. Carl, a seemingly unassuming man, was revealed to have been entwined in a secret romantic liaison with Ray, a fact unknown to both Dinah Truscott and Bob Hackles, the other suspects in this unfolding drama. On board the Voyager of the Seas, Carl's demeanor stood in contrast to the ship's vibrant atmosphere, which typically buzzed with the excitement of vacationing families and couples. His quiet, introspective nature belied the depth of his involvement with Ray, and as the FBI delved into his background, they uncovered a man who dreamed of a life less ordinary. yearning for acceptance in a world that was just beginning to embrace diversity in love and relationships. In the interview room, Carl's emotions were palpable. He vacillated between anger and profound sadness, his dreams of a future with Ray now irreparably shattered. For Carl, there was no escape from the harsh glare of suspicion that now shone upon him. His responses to the FBI's probing questions were tinged with desperation as he struggled to reconcile his clandestine relationship with the brutal end it had met. As the investigation wore on, the public followed the case with the same fervor as they did the unfolding saga of Gary Condit and Chandra Levy, a scandal that dominated the news cycles. The question on everyone's mind was whether Carl Balland, a man who sought solace in the quiet corridors of a library, could be capable of a crime as loud as murder. The investigation aboard the Voyager of the Seas culminated in a revelation that pierced the veil of mystery surrounding Ray Trusk's death. Bob Hackles, a 56-year-old insurance analyst and secret romantic partner of the victim, emerged as the perpetrator. The evidence painstakingly gathered by the FBI pointed irrefutably to a crime of passion, a fatal encounter that transpired against the backdrop of the ship's grandeur in the Gulf of Mexico's expanse. Bob, known for his convivial demeanor and professional success, was a man whose outward life belied the turmoil within. His dreams of a concealed relationship with Ray, free from the scrutiny of society and the constraints of his own family, had been dashed by Ray's intention to leave him for Carl Balland. The revelation had ignited a rage in Bob that culminated in a violent confrontation, ending with Ray's body being cast into the ocean's depths. The method was as brutal as it was definitive. Bob had pushed Ray from the balcony of their stateroom after a heated argument. The motive was clear, a mixture of jealousy, fear, and the unbearable prospect of losing Ray to another. The crime, devoid of weapons or premeditation, was an impulsive act that forever altered the course of several lives. As the news of the murderer's identity spread, the story became a subject of intense media scrutiny. Outlets like the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal typically focused on the economic downturn and the recently introduced tax cuts by President George W. Bush, now found space on their front pages for the sordid details of the case. Bob Hackles, once a respected member of his professional community, now faced the stark reality of his actions. His life, once interwoven with the fabric of Ray's, had unraveled in a moment of uncontrolled fury. The question of why a man would commit such an act hung heavily in the air, a reminder of the fragile nature of the human psyche. The climactic turn in the investigation aboard the Voyager of the Seas came on the morning of June 20, 2001. The skies above Galveston, Texas, were overcast, a somber reflection of the proceedings on the ship below. Bob Hackles, a 56-year-old insurance analyst and the man now known to have ended Ray Trusk's life, was taken into custody. The arrest, executed with precision by the FBI, was the culmination of days of meticulous investigation and evidence gathering. Hackles, who had maintained a veneer of composure throughout the interrogation process, met his fate with a quiet resignation. There was no dramatic outburst or plea for innocence. Instead, he seemed to have accepted the reality of his situation, perhaps aware that the weight of the evidence against him left little room for denial. The news of the arrest spread rapidly, with networks breaking into their regular programming to report the latest development. As Hackles was escorted off the ship in handcuffs, the passengers, who had been enjoying amenities like the ship's casino and Broadway-style shows, were now silent witnesses to the stark reality of justice being served. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of relief and morbid curiosity. Dinah Truscott and her children, who had boarded the cruise to celebrate a milestone anniversary, were left to grapple with a complex mix of emotions. The revelation of Ray's secret life and the identity of his killer had torn through their family, leaving them to face a future marred by tragedy and public scrutiny. The trial of Bob Hackles, set against the backdrop of a post-Y2K America grappling with the tremors of a shifting global landscape, commenced with the gravity befitting a case that had captured the nation's attention. The courtroom, often a stage for the dramas of human conflict, was packed with journalists, each racing to feed the public's appetite for updates, much like the frenzy surrounding the release of Apple's iPod later that year. A device that promised to revolutionize the way we consumed media. Prosecutor Angelo Argelia, a seasoned attorney with a reputation for his relentless pursuit of justice, presented a narrative of betrayal and jealousy that had culminated in the tragic death of Ray Trusk. He painted Hackles as a man whose facade of normalcy was shattered by the revelation of his secret relationship and the prospect of its end. The defense, led by the astute Janet Pringles, countered with an appeal to the jury's sense of compassion, framing Hackle's actions as those of a man driven to the brink by emotional turmoil, not unlike the characters in the popular primetime drama The Sopranos, which delved into the complexities of the human psyche. As the trial unfolded, the victims' families sat in the gallery, their presence a silent testament to their loss. The emotional toll on Jana Brisco and her children was palpable, their grief compounded by the media circus that had descended upon their private tragedy. The verdict, when it came, was unanimous: guilty. The sentencing followed, with Hackles receiving a punishment that some deemed harsh, others lenient, but all recognized as the irreversible conclusion to a series of irrevocable choices. The courtroom, which had been a crucible of tension, released a collective breath as justice was pronounced. The aftermath of the verdict rippled through the Truscott family and friends, their reactions a mosaic of relief, vindication, and unending sorrow. The case, which had unfolded alongside the country's preoccupation with events like the brewing storm over the Enron scandal, left an indelible mark on all who had been touched by it. In the wake of the trial that concluded with Bob Hackle's conviction, the individuals connected to the tragedy aboard the Voyager of the Seas began the arduous process of moving forward. The Truscott family, their private grief made public, sought solace in the routines of daily life. Jana Brisco, once planning for an anniversary celebration, now faced the daunting task of rebuilding her family's world without Ray. The children grappled with the dual loss of their father and the family's untarnished image. Detective Corinne Henning and Detective George Gibbons, the law enforcement duo who had pieced together the case, continued their careers with the FBI, each carrying the weight of the Truscott case as a somber reminder of the complexities hidden within human relationships. The case had tested their resolve and proven their dedication to uncovering the truth. Carl Bauhein's return to his life in Largo, Florida, his brief and secret romance with Ray now a closed chapter, its details buried in court documents and news archives. He sought anonymity, a return to the quietude of his profession, away from the sensationalism that had briefly thrust him into the public eye. The world outside, meanwhile, carried on at its relentless pace. The stock market, which had been in a state of flux since the dot-com bubble burst, continued to ebb and flow, a reflection of the nation's economic uncertainties. Brands like Nokia and Motorola dominated the mobile phone market, their devices a ubiquitous presence in the hands of those eager to stay connected in an increasingly digital age. As the years passed, the memory of the case faded from the public consciousness, replaced by new headlines and scandals. Yet for those directly affected by the tragedy, the echoes of the past remained. They moved through their lives, each day a step further from the events on the ship, but forever aware of the indelible mark left by the case of Ray Trusk. As we close this chapter of True Crime Case Files, we're reminded of the unpredictable nature of the human heart. A voyage that began with celebration ended in tragedy, leaving us to ponder the line between love and obsession. Briana Dalton was just 18 years old when she died. She had recently graduated from Forest Park High School, where she was known for being smart and kind. Briana loved reading and dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. She worked part-time at Barnes & Noble, where she enjoyed recommending books to customers and talking about her favorite stories. Briana lived in Forest Park, Ohio, with her stepfather, Irving Dalton, and his new wife, Margarita. Irving was a wealthy businessman, and Margarita was much younger than him. Briana's own mother had passed away a year earlier, which made life harder for Briana. She often felt lonely and missed her mom a lot. Despite these challenges, Briana was a cheerful and creative person. Her teachers at Forest Park High School always said she was a joy to have in class. She was part of the school's drama club and loved acting in school plays. Briana's best friends often talked about how she would light up any room with her smile and positive energy. In the days leading up to her death, Briana was busy making plans for her future. She had just attended her graduation ceremony and was excited about starting college in the fall. She had been accepted to Ohio State University and planned to study education. Briana was looking forward to becoming a teacher and inspiring kids to love reading as much as she did. Briana's relationship with her stepfather, Irving, was complicated. She seemed very close to him on the surface, but recently confided in her friends about how uncomfortable she felt around him. Irving was known for being charming in public but very controlling at home. Briana sometimes told friends how she tried to avoid being alone with him as much as possible. Briana had a bright future ahead of her and many dreams she wanted to fulfill. Her sudden death shocked everyone who knew her, leaving a hole in the hearts of her family, friends, and the community. On the morning of May 14, 2015, at around 7:30 a.m., Margarita Dalton made a shocking discovery. She walked into her stepdaughter Briana's bedroom and found her lying on the floor, unresponsive. Margarita, who had only been married to Briana's stepfather, Irving, for a few months, screamed in horror. The room was a mess with clothes and books scattered everywhere, making it look like a burglary had taken place. Margarita quickly called 911, her hands shaking as she dialed. She told the operator that her stepdaughter was not breathing and that it looked like someone had broken into the house. The 911 operator tried to calm her down and instructed her to check for a pulse, but Margarita was too scared to do anything more than wait for the police and paramedics to arrive. When the emergency services arrived, they found Margarita sitting on the floor outside Briana's room, crying and holding her head in her hands. The paramedics rushed in and quickly confirmed that Briana was dead. They noted that she had been strangled with a bra, which was found near her body. There were also signs of a struggle, with furniture overturned and items thrown around the room. Officer Jake Martinez was the first police officer on the scene. He immediately secured the area and started taking statements from Margarita. She was in shock, her voice trembling as she described how she had found Briana. Margarita said she had been making breakfast when she realized Briana had not come down yet. When she went to check on her, she found the terrible scene. As the news of Briana's death spread, the local community was in shock. Friends and neighbors gathered outside the Dalton house, whispering in disbelief. The local news stations, like Raldi Channel 5, quickly picked up the story, and soon, everyone in Forest Park knew about the tragic death of Briana Dalton. The police arrived quickly at the Dalton house on the morning of May 14, 2015. Led by Detectives Ned and Luster and James Reed, the team wasted no time in securing the area and beginning their investigation. Both detectives were well known in Forest Park for their dedication and thoroughness. Detective Luster, calm and analytical, led the team with precision. Detective Reed, although emotional at the sight of Briana's body, focused on gathering evidence. Briana's bedroom was a chaotic scene. Clothes, books, and other items were scattered everywhere, indicating a struggle. The bed was unmade, and the furniture was overturned. Briana lay on the floor, and it was clear she had been strangled with a bra, which was found near her body. The detectives noted the signs of a staged burglary, meant to cover up the true nature of the crime. The detectives began their work by photographing the entire room and documenting the evidence. They collected fingerprints from the furniture, door handles, and windows. They also took samples of fibers found on Briana's body and clothing. Forensic experts were called in to assist, using advanced tools like luminol to detect any blood traces that were not visible to the naked eye. Detective Luster interviewed Margarita Dalton, who had found Briana's body. Margarita was still in shock, her voice shaky as she recounted the events of the morning. She explained that she had gone to check on Briana when she didn't come down for breakfast. Margarita said she and Irving had gone to bed around 11 p.m. and hadn't heard anything unusual. The detectives also spoke with Irving Dalton. He was calm but defensive, insisting he had been at a business meeting the night before and knew nothing about the crime. He claimed he had come home late and went straight to bed. Irving's demeanor raised suspicions, but the detectives knew they needed more evidence to confirm their theories. Outside, the community was reeling from the news. Neighbors gathered, watching as the police went in and out of the house. The local media, including WLWT Channel 5, reported on the crime, adding pressure on the police to solve the case quickly. As the day went on, the detectives continued to gather evidence. They took Briana's phone and computer for analysis, hoping to find clues about her activities and interactions in the days leading up to her death. They also planned to review security footage from nearby homes and businesses to see if anyone had been near the Dalton house the previous night. The crime scene investigation was just the beginning of a complex and heartbreaking case that would leave a lasting impact on the Forest Park community. Irving Dalton, 58, was the first suspect the police investigated. He was a wealthy businessman known in Forest Park for his success in real estate. Irving was a tall, imposing figure who often wore expensive suits and drove luxury cars. Despite his public charm, many people described him as controlling and manipulative at home. Irving had married Briana's mother when Briana was just a child. After her mother's death, Irving became her legal guardian. Their relationship was strained at times and affectionate at others, but recently Briana confided in her friends about her unease around him. There were even whispers about a romantic relationship between Irving and Briana, which made him a key suspect in the investigation. Detective Luster and Detective Reed brought Irving in for questioning at the Forest Park Police Department. During the interrogation, Irving maintained a calm and collected demeanor. He told the detectives that he had been at a business meeting the night of Briana's death and came home late. Irving said he went straight to bed and didn't hear or see anything unusual. The detectives pressed Irving on his relationship with Briana. He admitted they didn't get along well but denied any wrongdoing. Irving claimed he was strict with Briana because he wanted the best for her. Despite his composed appearance, the detectives sensed that Irving was hiding something. To understand Irving better, the police interviewed his colleagues and acquaintances. Many described him as a man who liked to be in control. His business partners mentioned that Irving could be very persuasive and often got his way in deals. However, no one had any concrete evidence linking him to Briana's death. Irving's possible motive for harming Briana came from the rumors about their romantic relationship. If these rumors were true, Irving might have felt threatened by the possibility of Briana revealing his actions. This could have led him to take drastic measures to silence her. Despite his calm responses during interrogation, Irving's behavior raised suspicions. He was very careful with his answers, and the detectives noticed he avoided making direct eye contact. They also found it odd that Irving didn't show much emotion about Briana's death, which struck them as unusual for a stepfather. The detectives decided to dig deeper into Irving's alibi. They checked with his business associates to confirm his whereabouts on the night of the murder. While his colleagues confirmed he was at the meeting, there was still a window of time unaccounted for, which kept the detectives suspicious of Irving. Irving's controlled demeanor, the strained relationship with Briana, and the rumors about his behavior all pointed to him as a significant suspect. The police knew they needed more evidence to build a stronger case against him, so they continued their investigation. Margarita Dalton, 23, was the next suspect the police investigated. She had married Irving Dalton shortly after Briana's mother passed away. Margarita had worked as a waitress at Hooters before marrying Irving, and many people saw her as a gold digger. However, those close to her knew she genuinely cared for Irving, despite the power imbalance in their relationship. Margarita was a young and naive woman who often seemed out of place in Irving's wealthy world. She was insecure and anxious, aware of the whispers about her motivations. Despite her attempts to build a relationship with Briana, the teenager kept her distance, making Margarita's life in the Dalton household lonely and challenging. Detectives Luster and Reed brought Margarita in for questioning. During the interrogation, Margarita was visibly distressed, her eyes red from crying. She told the detectives she had found Briana's body that morning and had immediately called 911. Margarita explained that she had been making breakfast when she realized Briana hadn't come downstairs, prompting her to check on the teenager. Margarita described her relationship with Briana as difficult. She admitted that Briana never warmed up to her and often ignored her attempts to bond. Margarita said she had tried to be a good stepmother but felt like she was always failing. Despite this, she insisted she had nothing to do with Briana's death. The detectives asked Margarita about the night of the murder. Margarita said she and Irving had gone to bed around 11 p.m. She claimed they didn't hear anything unusual during the night. Margarita's alibi seemed straightforward, but the detectives needed to verify it. To understand Margarita better, the police spoke with her friends and former coworkers. They described her as sweet but easily influenced. Margarita's friends mentioned that she often felt overwhelmed by her new life with Irving and struggled to fit in. However, no one believed she was capable of harming Briana. The detectives considered Margarita's possible motive. Given her young age and fragile state, they wondered if Margarita might have felt threatened by Briana or if she had acted out of jealousy. However, Margarita's genuine distress during questioning made the detectives doubt this theory. Despite her emotional responses, the police had to explore every possibility. They checked Margarita's phone records and looked for any signs of conflict between her and Briana. They also reviewed security footage from the Dalton house and nearby areas to see if Margarita's account of the night matched up. Margarita's clear distress and consistent story made the detectives question her involvement in Briana's death. However, they knew they had to continue their investigation thoroughly, ensuring no stone was left unturned in their search for the truth. Vance Stoltz, 26, was Briana's boyfriend and the third suspect the police investigated. Vance had a troubled past, including a history of drug addiction. He worked on and off as a mechanic, but often struggled to keep a job due to his erratic behavior. Despite his issues, Briana had seen something in Vance and tried to help him turn his life around. Vance lived in a small RV on the outskirts of Forest Park. He was known to be passionate but also volatile, and his relationship with Briana had its ups and downs. Friends described their relationship as intense, with both deep affection and frequent arguments. Detectives Luster and Reed brought Vance in for questioning. During the interrogation, Vance appeared nervous and agitated. He fidgeted in his chair and avoided making eye contact. When asked about the night of Briana's murder, Vance said he had been at home watching old replays of Days of Our Lives and had fallen asleep early. He claimed he had not seen Briana for a few days before her death. The detectives pressed Vance about his relationship with Briana. Vance admitted they had argued recently about his drug use, but he insisted he would never hurt her. He became emotional, repeatedly saying he loved Briana and wanted to get clean for her. Despite his passionate responses, the detectives noticed inconsistencies in his story. To gather more information, the police spoke with Vance's neighbors. They mentioned hearing loud noises and shouting coming from his apartment on the night of the murder. One neighbor said she saw Vance leave his apartment around midnight and didn't see him return until the early hours of the morning. The detectives also reviewed Vance's phone records. They found several missed calls and text messages from Briana on the night of her murder. The messages showed that Briana was worried about Vance and wanted to check on him. This contradicted Vance's statement that he had not seen or heard from Briana for days. The possible motive for Vance was his unstable relationship with Briana and his struggle with addiction. The detectives considered that Vance might have acted out of jealousy or anger during an argument. However, without concrete evidence linking him directly to the crime, they couldn't arrest him yet. The detectives decided to search Vance's apartment. They found some suspicious items, including a torn piece of fabric that matched the material of Briana's shirt. They also discovered drug paraphernalia, indicating Vance had been using drugs recently. Although Vance's behavior and the evidence found raised suspicions, the detectives knew they needed more to make a solid case. They continued to investigate, hoping to uncover the truth about Briana's tragic death and bring her killer to justice. On May 16, 2015, 2 days after Briana's death, new evidence came to light. It was a rainy Saturday morning, and Detective Luster received a call from a local resident named Greg who lived a few houses down from the Daltons, said he had found something suspicious in his backyard. Detective Luster and Detective Reed quickly drove to his house. He was waiting for them on his porch, holding an old worn-out shoe. He explained that he had found the shoe near his garbage bins that morning. The shoe looked out of place, and Greg thought it might be connected to the recent crime. The detectives took the shoe back to the station for further examination. They also asked Greg if he had seen anyone near his house on the night of the murder. Greg said he had been away on a business trip and had only returned that morning. He hadn't noticed anything unusual before he left. At the station, forensic experts examined the shoe. They found traces of mud and grass, which suggested it had been worn recently. More importantly, they discovered a small blood stain on the inside of the shoe. The shoe was a men's size 11. Which matched the size of shoes Irving Dalton wore. The detectives also checked the shoe against the list of items taken from Briana's room. They found that it didn't belong to anyone in the Dalton household, raising more questions about its origin. Excited by this breakthrough, the detectives decided to search the area around Greg's house more thoroughly. They hoped to find more clues that could lead them to the killer. As they combed through the neighborhood, they discovered a hidden path that led from Greg's backyard to the Daltons' house. The path was overgrown with weeds and hardly noticeable, but it could have been used by someone trying to avoid being seen. The detectives also reviewed the security footage from nearby houses again, focusing on the area around Greg's house. They noticed a shadowy figure moving along the path late at night, just hours before Briana's body was found. The footage was grainy, but it was clear enough to show that someone had used the path recently. This new evidence gave the detectives a fresh lead. They decided to re-interview Irving Dalton, pressing him about the shoe and the hidden path. Irving continued to deny any involvement, but the detectives felt they were getting closer to uncovering the truth. With the discovery of the shoe and the hidden path, the investigation took a significant turn. The detectives were now more determined than ever to find Briana's killer and bring justice to her grieving family and friends. On May 20, 2015, the breakthrough in Briana Dalton's case came from an unexpected source. Detectives Luster and Reed received a call from the forensic lab. The blood stain found on the shoe matched Irving Dalton's DNA. This discovery was the crucial piece of evidence they needed. Irving Dalton, 58, was a wealthy real estate businessman known for his charm in public and his controlling nature in private. He had married Briana's mother when Briana was a child and became her legal guardian after her mother's death. Despite his public persona, whispers about his inappropriate behavior towards Briana had persisted. Irving had killed Briana to hide the fact that she was pregnant with his baby, a result of their secret affair. He feared the scandal and the potential legal repercussions would ruin his reputation and destroy his marriage to Margarita. On the night of May 13, 2015, Irving went to Briana's room to confront her. The confrontation turned violent, and he strangled her with a bra. He then staged the scene to look like a burglary gone wrong. Armed with the new evidence, the detectives planned Irving's arrest carefully. On the morning of May 21, 2015, at 7:00 a.m., they arrived at the Dalton house. Irving answered the door, surprised to see the police. Detective Luster informed him he was under arrest for the murder of Briana Dalton. Irving tried to remain calm, but his hands shook as they cuffed him and read him his rights. Irving's reaction to his arrest was a mix of shock and resignation. He didn't resist, but kept insisting he was innocent. However, the evidence was overwhelming. The shoe with his blood, the hidden path leading from Greg Thompson's yard to the Dalton house, and the inconsistencies in his alibi all pointed to his guilt. As the news of Irving's arrest spread, Briana's friends and family were both relieved and devastated. Margarita was in disbelief, struggling to come to terms with the fact that her husband was a murderer. Briana's friends expressed a mix of sorrow and anger, mourning the loss of their kind-hearted friend and the betrayal by someone who was supposed to protect her. The local community in Forest Park was shaken by the revelations. News outlets like WLWT Channel 5 covered the story extensively, and the case became a talking point on social media. People were shocked that someone so respected could commit such a heinous act. The arrest of Irving Dalton brought a sense of closure to the case, but it was clear that the road to justice for Briana was just beginning. The detectives knew the trial would be a long and difficult process, but they were determined to see it through and ensure that Briana's killer was held accountable. The trial of Irving Dalton began on August 10, 2015, drawing significant attention from the local community and media. The courtroom was packed with reporters from WLWT Channel 5 and other news outlets. Briana's friends and family were present, hoping for justice. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Cole Era, a determined and experienced lawyer in his early 40s. Era presented a compelling case against Irving. He detailed the evidence, including the shoe with Irving's blood, the hidden path, and the inconsistencies in Irving's alibi. Era argued that Irving killed Briana to hide the fact that she was pregnant with his baby, fearing the scandal would ruin his reputation and marriage. The defense attorney, Militia Bean Turner, was a skilled and persuasive lawyer in her late 30s. Turner argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that Irving was being unfairly targeted. She suggested that someone else, like Vance Stoltz, Briana's troubled boyfriend, could have committed the crime. Turner emphasized Irving's reputation and success as a businessman, portraying him as a victim of false accusations. As the trial progressed, the emotional toll on Briana's family and friends was evident. They listened to the details of her death and Irving's betrayal, struggling to hold back tears. Margarita Dalton, Irving's young wife, was a constant presence in the courtroom, looking pale and distraught. On December 5, 2015, after weeks of testimony and evidence, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was tense as the foreman read the decision. Guilty of first-degree murder, Irving showed little reaction, maintaining his stoic demeanor, while Briana's family and friends expressed a mixture of relief and sorrow. The sentencing phase followed, and on December 12, 2015, the judge handed down a life sentence without the possibility of parole. District Attorney Era called the sentence just and necessary for the heinous crime Irving committed. Defense Attorney Turner expressed disappointment but respected the jury's decision. The verdict and sentencing had a profound impact on everyone involved. Briana's family felt a sense of justice but also deep grief over their loss. Margarita Dalton was devastated, struggling to rebuild her life after discovering her husband's dark secret. Vance Stoltz, who had been a suspect, was relieved to be cleared but remained haunted by Briana's death. The Forest Park community also felt the effects of the trial. People were shocked that someone as respected as Irving could commit such a crime. The case sparked conversations about trust, betrayal, and the importance of looking out for one another. The trial's conclusion marked the end of a long and painful journey for those who loved Briana. While justice had been served, the memory of Briana Dalton would always be a reminder of the tragic events that unfolded in May 2015. After the trial of Irving Dalton, life in Forest Park slowly began to return to normal, though the scars left by Briana Dalton's tragic death would linger for years to come. For Briana's family, the verdict brought a sense of closure, yet their grief remained palpable. Briana's mother, who had passed away years before, was remembered fondly by neighbors who attended a memorial service at the local church. The family held a small gathering afterward, where they shared stories and memories of Briana. Margarita Dalton, who had stood by Irving throughout the trial, struggled to come to terms with the reality of her husband's actions. She sought solace in her friends and church community, finding strength in their support. Over time, Margarita began to rebuild her life, though she remained haunted by the betrayal she had endured. Vance Stoltz, Briana's boyfriend and briefly a suspect in the case, faced his own challenges. He entered rehab shortly after the trial, determined to overcome his addiction and honor Briana's memory. With the support of his family and friends, Vance made progress, taking steps toward a healthier, more stable life. In May 2016, a year after Briana's death, the community gathered at Forest Park High School for a memorial service. Friends, neighbors, and classmates shared memories of Briana, lighting candles in her honor. The ceremony provided comfort to those who had known Briana and served as a reminder of the importance of cherishing loved ones. As time passed, Briana Dalton's story faded from the headlines, replaced by new events and challenges facing the world in 2015. Yet for those who had known her, Briana's kindness, creativity, and dreams of becoming a teacher remain vivid memories, a legacy that would endure. Today, we explore the life and tragic death of a stay-at-home mom who found herself at the center of a tangled web of secrets, desires, and betrayal, a web that ultimately led to her untimely demise. Tina Balland was a 42-year-old stay-at-home mom who lived in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. She was well known in her community as a friendly and sociable woman who was always willing to lend a helping hand. Tina was the kind of neighbor who remembered birthdays, organized block parties, and never missed a chance to volunteer at her children's school events. She lived with her husband, Michael Balland, a 46-year-old insurance agent, and their two teenage children aged 16 and 15. In April 2014, Tina was at the peak of her involvement in the neighborhood. Tina was often seen driving her kids to practice in her blue Honda Odyssey, stopping by the local Starbucks for a caramel macchiato on the way. She was also active in her church, where she helped coordinate charity drives and bake sales. But Tina's life had another side, one that few knew about. Beneath her outward appearance as a devoted wife and mother, Tina was involved in a series of secret sexual relationships with other women in her community. These relationships were kept hidden from her family and most of her other friends. Tina was the belle of the ball in this secret circle, engaging in passionate sexual affairs with approximately a half-dozen other stay-at-home moms in her neighborhood. She enjoyed the thrill of these relationships, which gave her a sense of excitement and freedom that she didn't find in her bland suburban life. In the days leading up to her death, Tina was particularly excited about her new relationship with Hope Johnson, a 45-year-old woman who had recently moved into the neighborhood. Tina's friends noticed that she seemed happier than usual, but they had no idea of the secret life she was living. This hidden world, filled with desire and jealousy, would soon lead to a tragedy that would shock the entire community. On the morning of April 15, 2014, at approximately 8:30 a.m., Tina Balland's lifeless body was discovered at the bottom of the stairs in her home in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. It was a typical spring morning, with the sun shining brightly and the sound of birds chirping in the trees outside. The discovery was made by Lisa De Angelis, Tina's close friend and neighbor, who had come over after not receiving any responses to her text and calls the night before. Lisa and Tina had a strong bond, often meeting up at the local Panera Bread for coffee and catching up on the latest gossip. That morning, when Lisa arrived at Tina's house, she noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. Concerned, she called out Tina's name as she stepped inside, but there was no response. As she walked further into the house, her heart began to race. The house was eerily quiet, with the faint sound of the TV playing in the background. When Lisa reached the staircase, she was met with a sight that would haunt her forever. Tina was lying at the bottom of the stairs, her body twisted in an unnatural position. She was wearing a light blue nightgown, and her hair was matted with blood from a cut on her lip. Lisa froze in shock, her mind racing to make sense of what she was seeing. After a few moments, Lisa snapped out of her daze and frantically dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the operator, trying to explain what she had found. The 911 operator remained calm, asking Lisa to stay on the line until help arrived. Lisa could hardly keep her composure as she paced back and forth, her eyes never leaving Tina's motionless body. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as emergency responders arrived at the scene. Lisa was visibly shaken as paramedics rushed into the house. She stepped aside to let them work, her hands trembling as she watched them assess Tina's condition. Despite their efforts, it was clear that Tina was already gone. The paramedics confirmed that Tina was dead, and Lisa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. The tragedy of Tina Balland's death had just begun to unfold, leaving a community in shock and searching for answers. The Rio Rancho Police Department arrived quickly at Tina Balland's home on April 15, 2014, around 8:45 a.m., just minutes after Lisa De Angelis called 911. The first officers on the scene were Detective Martina Lopez, a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts, and Officer James Carson, a young patrolman with 2 years on the force. As they entered the house, they were met with the unsettling sight of Tina's body at the bottom of the stairs. Detective Lopez immediately took charge, instructing Officer Carson to secure the scene and make sure no one else entered the home. The staircase where Tina was found was carpeted with beige walls that showed no signs of a struggle. Tina's body was lying in a twisted position, her head turned awkwardly to the side. A small pool of blood had formed under her head, but the scene was relatively clean, with no obvious signs of a violent altercation. The detective carefully examined the area around Tina's body. The staircase was steep, with wooden railings that seemed solid and well-maintained. Lopez noted that Tina was barefoot, and there was a noticeable absence of anything that could have caused her to trip. The nightgown Tina was wearing was slightly torn at the hem, but there were no visible signs of a fight. As she continued her inspection, Lopez's eyes were drawn to a few details that seemed out of place. Tina's phone was found halfway down the stairs, its screen cracked, as if it had been dropped during a fall. But there was something odd about the position of Tina's body. It didn't match the typical pattern seen in accidental falls. The angle at which she had landed raised immediate red flags for the detective. The paramedics who had already confirmed Tina's death stepped back as the police continued their investigation. Detective Lopez ordered a full forensic sweep of the house. She wanted to ensure that every possible piece of evidence was collected. Bettine used luminol to check for any hidden traces of blood, and fingerprint powder was dusted on the stair railings and nearby surfaces. As Lopez observed the scene, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Her instincts told her that Tina's death might not be the tragic accident it first appeared to be. The lack of defensive wounds, the strange position of the body, and the eerie stillness of the house all pointed to something more sinister. With this in mind, the investigation would move forward with a closer look at those closest to Tina, beginning with her husband and her friends. Lisa De Angelis, 39, was the first person police turned to in their investigation. Known in the neighborhood as a nurturing and caring individual, Lisa had a reputation for being a devoted friend, especially to Tina Balland. They were often seen together at local spots like Panera Bread, and their children played together frequently. But as the police began to dig deeper, they uncovered a relationship between Lisa and Tina that went far beyond friendship. During her initial interrogation, Lisa appeared shaken but cooperative. Detective Martina Lopez, who was leading the investigation, noted Lisa's nervousness. She fidgeted constantly, her hands trembling as she answered questions. At first, Lisa described her friendship with Tina in typical terms, talking about their shared activities and the closeness they had developed over the years. However, as the questioning continued, it became clear that there was much more to their relationship. Under pressure, Lisa admitted that she and Tina had been involved in a secret sexual relationship for several months. The revelation stunned the detectives. Lisa described the relationship as passionate but complicated. Tina had confided in her, revealing that she was unhappy in her marriage and found comfort and excitement in their affair, and that Lisa made her feel like, quote, a Disney princess. But recently, things had taken a turn for the worse. Lisa explained that Tina had started to pull away from her, becoming increasingly distant. Tina had met a new neighbor, Hope Johnson, and had quickly developed a sexual relationship with her. Lisa confessed that she felt jealous and hurt, and she and Tina had argued about it several times, especially after Lisa had caught Hope and Tina having sex in her daughter's bed. Just a few days before Tina's death, Lisa had confronted her, telling Tina that she couldn't continue their relationship as she was seeing someone else. The police were intrigued by Lisa's admission. Jealousy was a powerful motive, and Lisa's emotional state raised suspicions. But when asked directly if she had anything to do with Tina's death, Lisa firmly denied it. She claimed that their argument was heated, but not violent. According to Lisa, she left Tina's house that evening upset, but never imagined it would be the last time she saw her friend alive. Lisa's interrogation left detectives with more questions than answers. Her jealousy was evident, and her connection to Tina placed her squarely under the microscope. But without concrete evidence, they couldn't make an arrest. The investigation would have to continue, with detectives looking closely at the other people in Tina's life who might have had a reason to harm her. Hope Johnson, 45, was the second person the police turned to in their investigation. Hope had recently moved to Rio Rancho from Atlanta, Georgia, just 6 months prior to Tina Balland's death. On the surface, Hope appeared to be a polished and professional woman. She was a real estate agent known for her sharp business acumen and poised demeanor. Her arrival in the neighborhood had caused a bit of a stir, with many of the local moms curious about the new resident. Hope's relationship with Tina had developed quickly. Neighbors noticed that the two women were often together, sharing private moments at local spots like the Starbucks on Southern Boulevard. They frequently texted each other, and there were whispers that their relationship might be more than just friendship. When Detective Martina Lopez questioned Hope, she maintained a calm and composed exterior, but there was an underlying tension that the detective couldn't ignore. Hope initially downplayed her relationship with Tina, describing it as a friendly connection formed through shared interests and neighborhood activities. However, when pressed, Hope admitted that their relationship had become intimate. Hope described Tina as someone who was charming and fun to be around, but also very persistent. She claimed that Tina had made the first move, DM her naked pictures, and suggesting they take their friendship to, quote, a place beyond your wildest dreams. At first, Hope was hesitant, knowing that Tina was married, but eventually, she gave in to the excitement of their secret affair. Despite the close bond they shared, Hope insisted that she had no reason to harm Tina. She revealed that Tina had recently begun expressing more serious feelings for her, even hinting at leaving her husband, Michael, to be with her. But this level of commitment made Hope uncomfortable. She had only just settled into the neighborhood and was dealing with her own marital issues. The last thing she wanted was to be entangled in a scandal. Hope's calm demeanor began to crack when detectives asked about the night of Tina's death. Hope claimed she was at home with her husband, but there was something in her voice that made the detectives doubt her story. Text messages retrieved from Tina's phone showed that Hope and Tina had been in contact late into the evening, and some of the messages suggested tension between them. There were even videos of the two having sex, which Hope had shared with other soccer moms in a way that flaunted their relationship. Though Hope denied any involvement in Tina's death, her connection to the victim and the underlying jealousy she harbored made her a key suspect in the investigation. The police would need more evidence to either confirm or clear her of suspicion. Michael Balland, 46, was the third person the police focused on in their investigation. As Tina Balland's husband, Michael was naturally a person of interest. Michael worked as an insurance agent, a job that kept him busy and often on the road. Neighbors described him as a quiet and somewhat distant figure, rarely seen at community events or social gatherings. He seemed to prefer spending his time away from home. And it was common knowledge that his relationship with Tina had been strained for years. When Detective Martina Lopez and her team interviewed Michael, he appeared stoic and detached, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil surrounding Tina's death. He admitted that his marriage to Tina had been rocky for some time. They had grown apart, with Michael spending more and more time on business trips or simply avoiding being at home. "I needed to get away from that awful woman," Michael said during the interview, his words carrying a bitterness that raised red flags for the detectives. Michael claimed he had no idea about Tina's secret sexual relationships with other women. He insisted that he was completely unaware of her affair with Lisa DeAngelis and was shocked to learn about her involvement with Hope Johnson. However, the detectives couldn't help but wonder if Michael's ignorance was genuine or if he was hiding something. The night of Tina's death, Michael told the police he had been out of town on a business trip in Los Angeles. He provided the names of colleagues who could verify his whereabouts, and at first glance, his alibi seemed solid. But there was something about Michael's demeanor that didn't sit right with the detectives. He was too calm, too measured, and his lack of visible grief made them suspicious. The investigation into Michael's possible motive revealed that he had a lot to lose if his marriage to Tina ended in divorce. Tina had inherited a significant amount of money from her parents, and if they divorced, Michael would likely lose access to that wealth. Moreover, there were rumors that Michael had been seeing other women and even some men during his frequent business trips, adding another layer of complexity to the case. Despite a strong alibi, Michael remained on the police's radar. His distant relationship with Tina, his financial concerns, and his possible infidelity all pointed to a potential motive. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into Michael's life and alibi before they could rule him out as a suspect. On April 18, 2014, 3 days after Tina Balland's death, a significant breakthrough came in the form of new evidence. It was a cool, overcast morning in Rio Rancho, and Detective Martina Lopez was reviewing the case files when she received a call from the forensic team. They had discovered something unusual in Tina's home, a small but telling detail that had initially been overlooked. The new evidence was a scuff mark on the wall near the bottom of the stairs where Tina had been found. The mark was faint, but it suggested that something, or someone, had made contact with the wall during the fall. Forensic experts used advanced techniques, including 3D imaging, to analyze the mark. They concluded that it was consistent with the sole of a shoe, indicating that Tina might have been pushed or tripped rather than having fallen accidentally. This discovery was a turning point in the investigation. The scuff mark suggested foul play, and Detective Lopez knew they had to revisit the crime scene with fresh eyes. The forensic team also found traces of skin cells under Tina's fingernails, which were sent to the lab for DNA analysis. This led the police to consider that Tina might have fought back against her attacker. With this new evidence, the detectives intensified their focus on the 3 main suspects: Lisa DeAngelis, Hope Johnson, and Michael Balland. They brought each of them back in for further questioning, this time armed with the knowledge that Tina's death was likely no accident. The discovery of the scuff mark and the DNA evidence under Tina's nails suggested that she had struggled with someone before her fatal fall. The police also re-examined the text messages on Tina's phone, paying closer attention to the exchanges she had with Lisa and Hope in the hours leading up to her death. The messages hinted at tension and jealousy, particularly between Tina and Lisa. These messages, combined with the new physical evidence, pointed to a possible confrontation. As the investigation progressed, Detective Lopez felt they were closing in on the truth. The new evidence gave the team a clearer picture of what might have happened that night. Tina's death was beginning to look less like a tragic accident and more like the result of a heated altercation. The police were determined to find out who was responsible, knowing that the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA under Tina's nails could be the key to solving the case. On April 20, 2014, the investigation into Tina Balland's death took a decisive turn. The DNA analysis from the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails came back with a match: Lisa DeAngelis. This discovery, combined with the scuff mark on the wall near the stairs, led Detective Martina Lopez to believe that Tina's death was not an accident, but a homicide. Lisa DeAngelis, 39, was a stay-at-home mom known for her nurturing personality. However, beneath her calm exterior, she harbored deep insecurities and fears of losing the people she loved. Tina Balland was at the center of these fears. While their sexual relationship had been the most passionate one of their lives, it was also fraught with jealousy and tension. When Tina started having sex with her new neighbor, Hope Johnson, Lisa felt threatened and betrayed. On the night of April 15, 2014, Tina and Lisa had a heated argument at Tina's home after Lisa caught Hope and Tina having sex. The argument escalated quickly, with emotions running high. Lisa, in a fit of jealousy and desperation, pushed Tina during the argument. The push caused Tina to lose her balance and fall down the stairs, hitting her head on the way down. The scuff mark on the wall was from Tina's shoe as she tried to regain her balance. The detectives pieced together that Tina had fought back, scratching Lisa in the process, which explained the skin cells under Tina's nails. After realizing what had happened, Lisa panicked. She left the scene, hoping the fall would be ruled an accident, but the physical evidence told a different story. On the morning of April 21, 2014, the police moved to arrest Lisa DeAngelis. Detective Lopez, along with a team of officers, arrived at Lisa's home. Lisa was visibly shaken when the police informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Tina Balland. She didn't resist but appeared in shock, as if the reality of her actions had only just hit her. As she was led away in handcuffs, Lisa muttered that she never meant to hurt Tina. She just wanted her back. The arrest sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Tina's family, especially her husband Michael, was devastated by the news. They had lost a wife and mother, and now they had to come to terms with the fact that her death was the result of a senseless act of jealousy. Michael, who had been cleared of any wrongdoing, expressed his disbelief that someone so close to Tina could do something so terrible. The trial of Lisa DeAngelis for the murder of Tina Balland began in late October 2014 at the Sandoval County Courthouse. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets like KRQE and the Albuquerque Journal covering every development. The courtroom was packed with spectators, including many of Tina's friends and family members who were eager to see justice served. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney James Wallace, a 45-year-old seasoned prosecutor known for his tenacity in the courtroom. Wallace argued that Lisa DeAngelis had acted out of intense jealousy, leading her to push Tina down the stairs during a heated argument. He presented the physical evidence, including the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA analysis of the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails. Wallace emphasized that Tina's death was not an accident, but the result of a deliberate act of violence. On the other side, the defense was handled by public defender Karen Michalowski, a 38-year-old attorney known for a compassionate approach to her clients. Michalowski argued that Lisa's actions were not premeditated and that the push was a result of an emotional outburst rather than an intent to kill. She portrayed Lisa as a woman who was deeply in love with Tina and had simply lost control in a moment of overwhelming emotion. Michalowski pleaded with the jury to consider Lisa's remorse and the fact that she had no prior history of violence. Throughout the trial, Tina's family watched with a mix of grief and anger. Michael Balland, Tina's husband, struggled to hold back tears as he listened to the details of his wife's final moments. The impact of Tina's death on her family was clear, and their presence in the courtroom served as a reminder of the real human cost of the crime. After several days of testimony and evidence presentation, the jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a verdict. On November 3, 2014, Lisa DeAngelis was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison, a sentence that many in the courtroom felt was too lenient given the circumstances. The verdict brought some closure to Tina's family, but the pain of losing her would never fully heal. For Lisa, the sentence marked the beginning of a long journey of reflection and regret. The trial and its outcome left a lasting impact on the Rio Rancho community, a stark reminder of how quickly love can turn to tragedy. After the trial, life in Rio Rancho slowly returned to normal, but the community was forever changed by the events surrounding Tina Balland's death. For Tina's family, the aftermath was a mix of sorrow and adjustment. Michael Balland, now a single parent, focused on rebuilding his life and caring for his children. He continued working as an insurance agent, but his once quiet demeanor became even more reserved. Michael found solace in his work and spending time with his children, who were struggling to cope with the loss of their mother. Lisa DeAngelis, after being convicted of second-degree murder, began serving her 20-year sentence at the New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. Her life in prison was marked by isolation and reflection. The once active community member now faced a daily routine behind bars. Lisa's trial and conviction were covered extensively by local news outlets like KRQE, and her case became a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked jealousy and emotional turmoil. For Hope Johnson, the new neighbor who had been a suspect in the case, life went on with a mixture of relief and continued anxiety. She moved away from Rio Rancho shortly after the trial concluded, seeking a fresh start in a new city. Her reputation in the neighborhood had been tarnished, despite being cleared of any wrongdoing, and she felt it was best to leave behind the memories of the past year. The impact of Tina Balland's death and Lisa DeAngelis' trial extended beyond the immediate circle of those involved. It served as a sobering reminder of how personal relationships and emotional conflicts can escalate into devastating outcomes. The case highlighted the importance of addressing and managing emotional issues before they spiral out of control, leaving a lasting mark on the community and those who lived through it. Willie Tanner, 49, was a well-known and respected figure in the small southern town of Tifton, Georgia. He owned Tanner's Hardware, a local store that had been serving the community for over 2 decades. Known for its friendly service and wide selection of tools and supplies, Tanner's Hardware was the kind of place where neighbors could count on finding what they needed, whether it was a simple screwdriver or advice on how to fix a leaky faucet. Willie was often seen behind the counter, greeting customers with a warm smile and chatting about everything from the weather to last night's episode of Jeopardy! Willie's life appeared ideal to those who knew him. He was married to Lynn Tanner, 48, his high school sweetheart, and the couple was often involved in local church activities and charity events. They lived in a modest but well-kept home. decorated for the holidays with twinkling lights and a wraith on the front door. However, beneath this seemingly perfect exterior, Willie was hiding a dark secret. Despite his reputation as a devoted husband and upstanding citizen, Willie had become involved in a secret affair with Madison Kelly, an 18-year-old high school senior. Madison, known for her striking looks and intelligence, was a regular customer at the hardware store. Over time, a friendship developed that quickly turned into a sexual relationship. Torn between guilt and desire, Willie struggled with his conscience as the holiday season approached. He knew the affair was wrong, but he was unable to break free from the emotional entanglement that had developed. The relationship was torrid and extremely intense, with Willie struggling between his guilt and his growing attachment to Madison. In the days leading up to his death, Willie had been distant and distracted, trying to maintain the facade of a loving husband while battling his inner turmoil. As Christmas approached in December 2019, Willie's behavior began to change. He became more distant, spending less time at home, and more time working late. Lynn noticed the change but attributed it to the stress of running the business during the busy holiday season. Friends and neighbors also noticed that Willie seemed preoccupied, no longer as cheerful as he once was. But no one could have imagined the storm brewing beneath the surface, a storm that would soon shatter the peace of their small town. It was the morning of December 22, 2019, just a few days before Christmas. Tifton, Georgia was quiet, with most of the town's residents finishing their holiday shopping or decorating their homes. Around 9:00 a.m., Lynn Tanners, Willie's wife, was returning home from her Sunday morning church service at First Baptist Church, where she had volunteered to help prepare for the upcoming Christmas Eve service. She noticed Willie's truck parked in the driveway, which struck her as odd since he had mentioned needing to pick up some last-minute supplies for the store. When Lynn entered their home on Bride Street, the first thing she noticed was the smell of fresh pine from the Christmas tree they had decorated together. The tree was still lit with colorful lights, and underneath it were neatly wrapped presents, some with her name on them. But something was off. The house was eerily silent, and Willie didn't respond when she called out his name. As Lynn walked into the living room, she was met with a sight that would haunt her forever. Willie's lifeless body lay on the floor near the Christmas tree, surrounded by shattered ornaments and tinsel. His head was soaked in blood, as if it were an enchilada, and a hammer lay nearby, covered in what she could only assume was her husband's blood. Lynn dropped to her knees, her body shaking as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Panic set in, but Lynn forced herself to stay calm enough to call 911. Her voice trembled as she explained the situation to the operator, tears streaming down her face. "Oh my lordy, my husband's not breathing. There's blood everywhere," she cried. The operator tried to keep her calm, instructing her not to touch anything and to wait outside for the police and paramedics. Within minutes, the quiet street was filled with the flashing lights of emergency vehicles. Neighbors peeked out from their windows, whispering to each other and speculating about what had happened. Lynn sat on the front porch, numb and in shock, unable to comprehend how her life had changed in an instant. The Tifton Police Department arrived on the scene within minutes of Lynn Tanner's 911 call. Leading the investigation was Detective Nora Collins, a seasoned officer with over 15 years of experience. Known for her sharp instincts and methodical approach, Detective Collins was respected by her peers and feared by criminals. As she stepped out of her unmarked cruiser, she was immediately struck by the contrast between the festive decorations on the Tanner's home and the grim scene awaiting her inside. The living room was a disturbing mix of holiday cheer and brutal violence. Christmas lights twinkled on the tree, reflecting off the shattered ornaments scattered across the floor. Willie Tanner's body lay near the base of the tree, his head caved in, like a half-eaten burrito, from what appeared to be multiple blows with a hammer. Blood had spattered across the nearby gifts, soaking the wrapping paper and ribbons. Detective Collins took in the scene, her mind racing as she began to piece together what might have happened. The hammer, still lying beside Willie's body, was immediately bagged as evidence. The crime scene was bloody, but it was also oddly confined. There were no signs of a struggle beyond the immediate area around the tree. It was as if Willie had been caught completely off guard. The forensic team arrived shortly after, led by Dr. Philip K. Wang, a meticulous and detail-oriented medical examiner who was known for his precise work. Dr. Wang began examining Willie's body, noting the severe head trauma that had likely caused instant death. He estimated the time of death to be between 10:00 p.m. and midnight the previous evening, based on the state of rigor mortis. Detective Collins directed her team to collect every possible piece of evidence. They dusted for fingerprints, took photographs, and searched for any other clues that might point to the killer. She also interviewed Lynn Tanners, who was still in shock but managed to provide a basic timeline of her morning and Willie's activities the previous day. As the investigation unfolded, Detective Collins couldn't shake the feeling that this was a crime of passion. The brutality of the attack suggested deep anger or jealousy, emotions that often fueled such violent outbursts. But who could have hated Willie Tanners enough to kill him in such a brutal way? That was the question Collins was determined to answer. The first person Detective Nora Collins decided to investigate was Madison Kelly, the 18-year-old high school senior who had also been the secret lover of Willie Tanners. Madison was known around Tifton as a bright student with a promising future. She was involved in several extracurricular activities, including the school's drama club, where she had recently wowed audiences as Tiny Tim in a local production of A Christmas Carol. But beneath her polished exterior, Madison was emotionally fragile, a trait that had become more apparent in recent months. Madison lived with her mother, Tammy Kelly, in a small but tidy house on the outskirts of town. The Kellys were known for keeping to themselves, and Tammy was known in the community for being controlling and obsessed with her daughter's appearance, especially her husband. Madison's father had left the family after coming out as gay. When Detective Collins arrived at the Kelly residence on the afternoon of December 22, she found Madison, still dressed in her jammies, in her bedroom, visibly shaken by the news of Willie's death. The room was a typical teenager's sanctuary, filled with posters of pop stars like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande, but there were also signs of Madison's obsession with Willie. Detective Collins noticed a framed shirtless photo of Willie on Madison's nightstand, and her journals were filled with graphic entries about their sexual relationship. During the interview, Madison was initially cooperative but quickly became emotional when questioned about her relationship with Willie. She admitted to the affair, describing how they had grown close over the past year. Madison revealed that she had fallen deeply in love with Willie and had even fantasized about a future together. However, as Christmas approached, Willie had become distant, and she feared he was planning to end their relationship. When Detective Collins pressed Madison on her whereabouts the night of the murder, Madison hesitated before claiming she had been home alone, studying for her final exams. Her alibi was weak, and her emotional state raised red flags for Collins. Madison's tears and trembling hands indicated that she was under immense stress, but whether it was from guilt or grief was unclear. As the interview continued, Madison's demeanor shifted from sorrowful to defensive. She insisted she had nothing to do with Willie's death and began to speak erratically, blaming a mysterious man she called Bob for influencing her actions. Madison claimed that Bob had convinced her to pursue a sexual relationship with Willie or else he would torture her, but when pressed for more details, she became evasive and confused. Detective Collins was unconvinced by Madison's story. The combination of her emotional instability, obsession with Willie, and weak alibi made her a prime suspect. However, Collins knew she needed more concrete evidence before she could make an arrest. The investigation into Madison Kelly was far from over, and Collins was determined to uncover the truth behind Willie Tanner's tragic death. The second person on Detective Nora Collins' list was Lynn Tanners, Willie's wife of 25 years. Lynn was a well-known figure in Tifton, recognized for her deep involvement in the community and church activities. She was a warm and friendly woman, always greeting neighbors with a smile and often hosting gatherings at their home. Despite the outward appearance of a happy marriage, Detective Collins knew that Lynn had long harbored suspicions about Willie's fidelity. Lynn had spent the days leading up to the murder preparing for Christmas. She had been busy with church events, including the upcoming Christmas Eve service at First Baptist Church. To the outside world, it seemed like Lynn was focused on her faith and family, but inside, she was troubled by a growing sense of unease. She had noticed Willie's increasing absences, which he often explained away as work-related or part of his commitment to the church. However, Lynn couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When Detective Collins interviewed Lynn on December 22, Lynn was still in shock from discovering her husband's body that morning. Sitting at the kitchen table, Lynn recounted her marriage to Willie, describing him as a loving husband, but also admitting that they had grown distant and sexless in recent years, especially after their son Rifle left for college. She confessed that she had suspected Willie of having an affair after he kept turning down her requests for sex, but had no proof. Lynn's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke about the strain it had put on their relationship, particularly in the last few months. Detective Collins asked Lynn about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Lynn stated that she had been at home, preparing for the next day's church service. She had gone to bed early, assuming Willie would join her later, but when she woke up in the middle of the night and realized he wasn't there, she assumed he had fallen asleep in the living room. It wasn't until the next morning that she discovered the gruesome truth. Lynn's account of the evening was straightforward, but Detective Collins couldn't ignore the possibility that Lynn's suspicions about Willie's affair could have driven her to commit the murder. The brutal nature of the crime suggested a deeply personal motive, and as the wife of the victim, Lynn had both the opportunity and a potential reason to kill. However, Lynn's grief appeared genuine, and her cooperation with the investigation was unwavering. She answered all of Collins' questions without hesitation and even provided access to Willie's personal belongings, including his phone and computer. Still, Collins knew that emotions could be powerful motivators, and she wasn't ready to rule Lynn out as a suspect just yet. The investigation continued, with Collins keeping a close eye on every detail of Lynn's story. The third-person detective Nora Collins needed to investigate was Tammy Kelly, the mother of Madison Kelly, and a woman with a strong-willed, controlling personality. Tammy was known around Tifton as a perfectionist, always concerned with appearances and maintaining a strict household, especially after her husband left her after coming out of the closet. She was active in the community, often organizing events at the local church, but her primary focus was on her daughter, Madison. Tammy's relationship with Madison had always been strained. Madison, who was young, beautiful, and full of sexual potential, had been the subject of Tammy's obsessive fear and attention. Tammy's control over Madison extended to every aspect of her life, from the clothes she wore to her social interactions. It was well known among their neighbors that Tammy had high expectations for her daughter and was often harsh when those expectations weren't met. Rumors had circulated that Tammy disciplined Madison severely, with one particularly disturbing story claiming that Tammy whipped Madison whenever she thought her daughter's appearance was too attractive to men in the community. Detective Collins approached Tammy on December 23, the day after Willie Tanner's body was found. Tammy was at home, seemingly unfazed by the events of the past day. She welcomed Collins into her clean living room, decorated with traditional Christmas decorations, including a perfectly trimmed tree and a nativity scene. Tammy was calm and composed as she spoke, but there was an underlying tension in her demeanor. Collins began the interview by asking Tammy about her relationship with Willie. Tammy was quick to praise Willie, describing him distantly as a good man and a pillar of the community. However, as the conversation shifted to Madison, Tammy's tone became more guarded. She admitted that she had been angered about Madison's recent behavior, noting that her daughter had begun wearing makeup and a bra in the weeks leading up to the murder. When Collins pressed Tammy about whether she knew of Madison's sexual relationship with Willie, which was exactly what she was trying to prevent, Tammy's composure faltered slightly. She denied any knowledge of the affair, but admitted that she had noticed Madison had begun to dress like a harlot, in Tammy's words. Tammy claimed that she had tried to talk to Madison about it, but her daughter had brushed her off, insisting everything was fine. Collins couldn't ignore the possibility that Tammy's jealousy and need for control could have driven her to commit the murder. Tammy's intense need for control of her daughter, combined with the potential scandal of Madison's sexual affair with a much older man, her worst nightmare, gave her a possible motive. However, Tammy remained cool and collected throughout the interview, showing no signs of guilt or remorse. She was polite and cooperative, but offered little useful information. As Collins left the Kelly home, she knew Tammy couldn't be dismissed as a suspect. The investigation was growing more complex, with each suspect revealing new layers of potential motives and secrets. But without hard evidence, Collins was still piecing together the puzzle. On December 24, 2019, just one day before Christmas, the investigation took a significant turn. It was a cold, gray morning in Tifton, Georgia, with temperatures hovering around the low 40s. Detective Nora Collins and her team were back at the Tanner's residence, meticulously combing through every inch of the crime scene, determined to find any clue they might have missed. As the team searched the house, one officer noticed something odd near the fireplace. Amidst the neatly wrapped Christmas presents, he found a small, torn piece of paper partially tucked under the rug. The paper appeared to be a handwritten note, but only a fragment was legible. It read, "Dirty boy, meet me at," followed by a time, 10 o'clock p.m., and the initials MK. This discovery immediately caught Detective Collins' attention. The initials MK seemed to match those of Madison Kelly, Willie's secret lover. The time mentioned in the note also coincided with the estimated time of Willie's death. Collins realized that this could be the key piece of evidence that linked Madison directly to the crime scene on the night of the murder. Collins quickly ordered a forensic analysis of the note, hoping to determine if the handwriting matched Madison's. The note was sent to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in Atlanta for further examination. Meanwhile, Collins decided to revisit Madison's home to search for anything that might tie her to the note or the crime. While at the Kelly residence, Collins and her team found a notebook in Madison's bedroom, hidden under her mattress. The notebook was filled with disturbing entries about her obsession with Willie, including plans to meet him in secret. One of the entries, dated December 22, matched the time and place mentioned in the torn note found at the Tanner's house. This new evidence was crucial. It not only placed Madison at the scene of the crime, but also provided a motive driven by jealousy and obsession. Collins felt that the case was beginning to come together, with the puzzle pieces finally falling into place. Back at the station, the forensic analysis confirmed that the handwriting on the note matched Madison's. This was the break Collins had been waiting for. With this new evidence, the focus of the investigation narrowed sharply on Madison Kelly, making her the prime suspect in Willie Tanner's murder. As the investigation progressed, all signs began pointing toward Madison Kelly, Willie's 18-year-old secret lover. The small town of Tifton, Georgia, was already reeling from the news of Willie's brutal murder, but what emerged from the investigation shocked everyone even more. Madison's obsessive love for Willie had been building for months. As the holiday season approached, her fear of being abandoned grew stronger. She was terrified that Willie, a man more than twice her age, would leave her behind to focus on his family during Christmas. The thought of losing him consumed her, driving her into a jealous rage. On the night of December 21, 2019, Madison decided to confront Willie at his home. Desperate for reassurance that he still loved her, she did something drastic. She took off all her clothes and begged him to have sex with her right then and there in the middle of the living room. Willie, already feeling the pressure of his double life and fearing that his wife would find out, panicked. He tried to end the relationship, fearing exposure and the consequences it would bring to both their lives. But this only pushed Madison over the edge. In a moment of uncontrollable fury, Madison snapped. In a moment of uncontrollable fury, she grabbed a hammer that Willie had planned to use for hanging Christmas lights and beat him to death with it. The scene was gruesome, with the festive decorations in the living room contrasting sharply with the violence of the crime. After the murder, Madison knew she was in deep trouble. In a desperate attempt to avoid punishment, she concocted a bizarre story. She feigned having early-onset schizophrenia, claiming that a secret lover named Bob had been manipulating her for years. According to her elaborate tale, Bob was a high-ranking politician involved in wild sex rituals and secret satanic and Wiccan practices. Madison insisted that Bob had forced her into a life of sin and ultimately commanded her to kill Willie. The police, however, were unimpressed by her story. Detective Nora Collins, who had been leading the investigation, saw through the lies. Despite Madison's attempts to shift the blame, the evidence was clear. The handwriting on the note found at the crime scene matched Madison's, and her obsessive entries in her notebook painted a picture of a young woman consumed by jealousy and rage. When confronted with the evidence, Madison tried to change her story. She claimed that Bob was merely a voice in her head, that she was mentally ill, and that she hadn't been in control of her actions. But the police didn't buy it. They believed she was lying to cover up her crime. On December 26, 2019, Madison Kelly was officially arrested for the murder of Willie Tanner. She was taken into custody without incident, her demeanor eerily calm as she was led away in handcuffs. The town of Tifton was left in shock, struggling to comprehend how a young woman with such a bright future could commit such a heinous act. Willie's family, devastated by the loss, found some solace in the fact that the person responsible for his death was finally behind bars. But the pain of his absence, especially during the holiday season, was something they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. The trial of Madison Kelly began in early February 2020. The small town of Tifton, Georgia, was gripped by the case, with many locals following every detail closely. The courtroom was packed as the prosecution and defense presented their cases. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Robert Whitman, a seasoned attorney known for his no-nonsense approach, argued that Madison's crime was premeditated. Whitman, 52, described how Madison's obsession with Willie Tanner's had reached a dangerous level, leading her to commit a brutal murder when he tried to end their affair. He emphasized the cold, calculated nature of the crime, pointing to the evidence that Madison had brought the hammer with her, fully intending to use it. Whitman also dismissed Madison's claims of mental illness, calling it a desperate attempt to escape justice. On the other side, the defense attorney, Karen Blackwell, 45, who was known for her compassionate yet sharp legal mind, argued that Madison was mentally unstable at the time of the murder. Blackwell claimed that Madison had suffered from a psychotic break, driven by the fear of losing Willie and the intense pressure of their secret relationship. She asked the jury to consider Madison's troubled home life and the influence it had on her mental state. Blackwell painted a picture of a vulnerable young woman who had been manipulated by an older man and who had finally snapped under the pressure. Throughout the trial, Willie's family sat in the front row, their faces etched with grief. They listened quietly as the details of Willie's double life were laid bare for the world to see. The pain of his betrayal was clear, but so was their deep sorrow at his loss. After several days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. On February 18, 2020, Madison Kelly was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 15 years. The sentence brought mixed reactions. Some felt it was too lenient given the brutality of the crime, while others believed it was a fair acknowledgement of Madison's youth and troubled mental state. Willie's family expressed relief that the trial was over, but knew that the scars of this tragedy would remain with them forever. After the trial concluded, life in Tifton, Georgia, slowly began to return to normal, though the memory of the crime lingered. Willie Tanner's hardware store, once a bustling hub in the community, closed its doors for good. Without Willie to run it, his family decided they couldn't keep the business going. The closure marked the end of an era for the small town, leaving a hole in the community that was difficult to fill. Madison Kelly was transferred to a state prison, where she began serving her 25-year sentence. Despite her attempts to feign mental illness during the trial, the prison's psychiatric evaluations found no evidence of schizophrenia or any other condition that would have explained her actions. Madison spent her days in relative isolation, with few visitors. Her once promising future was now a distant memory, replaced by the reality of a life behind bars. Lynn Tanners, Willie's widow, struggled to cope with the revelations about her husband's double life. The knowledge that Willie had been unfaithful with an 18-year-old girl was a heavy burden to bear. Despite the support of her church community, Lynn withdrew from public life, choosing to grieve in private. She eventually sold the family home and moved to a nearby town, hoping for a fresh start away from the memories that haunted her. Tammy Kelly, Madison's mother, faced her own challenges after the trial. The scandal had brought shame upon her family, and Tammy's once ironclad grip on her daughter's life had shattered. Tammy became a pariah in the community, with many blaming her controlling nature for Madison's downfall. She too retreated from public view, avoiding the judgmental stares of her neighbors. For the residents of Tifton, the events of December 2019 served as a stark reminder that even in a close-knit community, secrets can fester and lead to tragedy. The town's Christmas celebrations that year were muted as the memory of Willie Tanner's murder cast a long shadow over the holiday season. It would take years for the community to heal, and even then, the story of Madison Kelly and Willie Tanner's would be remembered as one of the darkest chapters in Tifton's history.